Solar flares ain't no joke. They're really no joke. They really ain't no joke. Okay, so yesterday we had an X-class solar flare. We're gonna do a twin flame reading. Or some sort of fucking reading. Excuse the French. I don't know what's gonna come out here, guys and gals. Just bear with me here. I didn't get any sleep last night. I was wired, and a lot of my friends were too. I'm getting that intuitively. I know of one that was, but I'm getting intuitively a lot of people were up last night. There's a lot of ascension symptoms. There's a lot of, like, if you're experiencing crazy shit, that's why. Let's see what's up. Generosity card. Yeah. So I've been very much so in my divine feminine energy lately, and I've been okay with that. I've been cool with that. So yeah, I guess it's just a message to go with the flow, like with whatever you're experiencing right now, like just go with the flow. An 11. Lots of messages about spirit crossing over, spirits in general. There's a lot going on with that. New gifts coming online, mediumship. Like if you're a medium, your gifts could be increasing. If you're not a medium, your gifts, whatever they are still increasing, or you're beginning to find out what the fuck they actually are. So yeah, do not fret. Just kind of go with the flow right now. I'm getting a defeat. Oh yes. Thank you, Spirit. It's reminding me of why I came on here in the first place. And by the way, the light beings are coming through really strong, like Arcturus, the Pleiadians, the Lyrans, Spiccans, Tau Ceti is coming in. What else? Virgo. What else is coming through right now? Andromeda. Andromeda big time. Andromeda, yeah. They're wanting me to talk about 222 right now on the clock. They're wanting me to talk about perspective and a feeling of defeat. Okay, so, they're wanting me to like, they're saying let go. Let go. Okay, so this goes along with that surrender message. I just heard a boom confirmation. I think it was the neighbor though. My leg is itching. My right leg is itching behind my shin. So some of you guys and gals could like be having like itchiness today, or rashes, or dry skin or something. Not all of you, but I'm picking up. I'm an empath, so I pick up on that stuff. The message that wanted to come through from the light beings before we dive into whatever else we're going to be going into, twin flame stuff, because that's definitely going to come through here. I already know. I'm already anticipating it. But what they wanted me to really talk about is about your perspectives on things. Like how that actually changes. Like that's the root of a lot of things. And like how you're viewing things is the old way of viewing things. And you're going to be shifting them into new ways of viewing them. A whole realm. Like they're showing me a hall of mirrors. And mirrors, yeah, the number 9. And mirrors have been like a really big thing recently. Like portals connecting one another through the mirrors. Like you could be doing some mirror work or just self-reflection. That could be, you know, this is what they're having me draw. Mirror, 9, portals connecting. Hall of mirrors, like different doors to enter, different perspectives, different portals, different realms of the mind that you're still exploring, that you're going to be exploring more and more. Yeah, so, gosh, so much is coming through. I'm so sorry. So much is coming through. Okay, so what they wanted me to talk about is how you have maybe a perspective of something not going right in your life, but what you need to understand is you hold more power than that. When you hold that belief outside of you, you're giving your power away. They want you to take back your power. And this goes back with my Reclamation of Power reading. So if you haven't seen, it's the one titled Reclamation of Power. I highly recommend you watch it. I'm sure a lot of you have that, you know, are subscribed. And if you're not subscribed, please do. We have a cool family going on right here. So, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. Like, and whoever's drawn at the right time is meant to be, and who, you know, so just trust what you're drawn to. When you're putting a perspective outside of the feeling of self-empowerment, what that is like, it's just creating like a reflection for you to bounce ideas off of to get you back to your power. It's like really ultimately self-reflection by diving into the opposite of what is actually true. So if diving into the opposite of what actually is true is this feeling of defeat of a perspective that you're placing outside of yourself, where you're not satisfied, or you're not happy, quote unquote, what you're really doing is you're just delving into a reflection of where you're going within yourself deeper. And that's why you're being presented with this frequency. And ultimately, you hold the power over all along, and you also don't simultaneously. And so it's teaching yourself lessons through the feelings of control and letting go, and how to work with both through balance and self-reflection, and then utilizing that to propel yourself forward. So understanding that all perspectives start within the mind, and the mind means spirit. The word for mind literally means spirit. I just found that out. How cool is that, right? So it's really kind of letting go. Okay, they're saying letting go, going into these different realms of consciousness, working with, you might want to work with like hypnotherapy too. You don't have to, but you could. You can do your own. Like if you don't trust others, you can set up your own through a voice recording and walk yourself through like a mini hypnosis just to like start and see what you discover, see what you uncover, or just receive the frequencies. If you don't feel comfortable with that, you can just sit with yourself and your energy and just see what you get from that. A lot of times, you guys, 7-Eleven just now, that's like a huge message, and I'll be going over that. Maybe in another reading, maybe in the next reading. It might be this reading though. We'll see. But I've been doing a lot of just like sitting, really. And it's been so productive for me. Like it's just been really good, just sitting. And so a lot of you could be doing this where you're just sitting, you know, and you're receiving whatever it is you need to receive, or you're reflecting upon whatever it is you need to reflect upon. But ultimately, like the message that's coming through is you hold the power within your mind. Your perspective is literally everything. By you taking on a mentality of defeat or unhappiness, is you putting the power outside of yourself, so that way you can recognize that, so that way you can take back that power and realize that you can change your perspective, change your whole reality. By just a tweaking of that perspective can quantum leap you into a whole new realm, a whole new portal, a whole new doorway of thought. And so that's the message that they want me to stop talking about. I'm just blabbing, they're saying. Okay, sorry, Spirit. I'm half asleep, you guys. I didn't sleep one wink. Not one. Okay, let's see what else we get. I was wide awake. And I did have a very sad thing happen yesterday within the family. Like my whole family. With one of my loved ones. That's pretty close. So yeah, and it's not even sad though, because again, that's a perspective. So we're changing that as well. They're talking about crossing over. They're talking about the different levels and realms that we are invited to explore into as mediums, as just sensitive people in general, and what that means, and what your spirit means while it's here. Illusion, yeah, a lot of what we take on is illusion to kind of like play with and mold with, and while it can be very lighthearted and fun, it's also can be very like serious. And so it's finding a balance between the both. It's really about balance here. And it's also about like how your spirit doesn't ever die. It just changes. It just changes. It's illusion. Yeah, there's so much that love, bottom of the deck. There's so much that humanity right now, because I pick up on the collective, is like really delving into and exploring and just being taken on an adventure really right now. It's like literally, I got this message about how there's like two balls going downhill, and one's on a roller coaster, the ups and downs of life, and one's on just like a constant slant. And the one that's going up and down actually arrives at the bottom quicker. What I felt, what I've known, never shine through what I've shown. Never be, never see, won't see what might have been. What I felt. I'm not saying one's right or wrong, because honestly, time is just a projection of the mind as well. And so, like, once you realize that you are the holder of the clock, that you are the holder of time, you yourself, and how you want to shift and create your reality as if it's clay, while working simultaneously with God, Source, and the Creator, it's like you learn the balance and the multidimensionality of all of it, not just the duality of it. You learn ways to work with it in your own ways, and that it's such a beautiful thing, and your minds are really expanding. And this was something that was predicted a long time ago, okay? And yeah, so things right now could feel like just whoa and overwhelming, and that is okay. Yeah, the realist. So this realistic mind of yours is going to want to come in and like kick out everything that you've learned, but it can't. And so it's okay, because that resistance is also going to keep digging into further integration. And the further we go deeper, the higher we go spiritually and in consciousness. So yeah. Gratitude is what I heard, but they showed me attitude. You're getting a change of attitude, and the change of attitude is gratitude. Most definitely here. Okay. Yeah, so if you've been feeling like a lack of happiness, it's okay, because that's just, again, showing you that you're already happy. Like, if you take on the perspective, and this is actually true, that you have everything you already need. You already have everything you could have ever wanted, which is why you're choosing this now moment, which is why you've chosen these now moments. That time is an illusion, and that the way that we feel has ultimately been programmed from a lower working agenda that has tried to control and manipulate the collective. But a lot of you see that. And some of it, you have taken it on as your own, but now you're able to identify it as something that isn't yours.
With the news being super extra right after the movie Leave the World Behind came out, I figured I should remind all of y'all what psychological warfare is. So this is a declassified document from the CIA. It was written in 1991, and it says, "It would be tempting to turn psychological weapons against one's own people and make millions of them forget about discontent with the system of social inequality, about the struggle for peace, and about their civil rights, oppressed but joyful, fleeced by monopolies, but content with everything. Wouldn't this be the ideal citizen from the point of view of ruling circles in countries of the West?" This was newspapers of ours wrote quite recently about MKUltra, an ultra-secret program of American intelligence which was aimed at turning people into zombies in masses. But we know now that we ourselves have not escaped such brainwashing. Stories about design bureaus at which instruments have been developed for producing long-distance effects on the human mind have begun to appear in the press. For such cases to become fewer, people must first be rescued from psychological terror, which is now occurring. The term psychological terror refers to factors which adversely affect human consciousness. Politics and ideology are not the only ones which should be mentioned. Among the rest are hypnosis shows at stadiums and on television. Among the rest are hypnosis shows at stadiums and on television. Is there a way of preventing mass creation of zombies? Of course, and it is known to the whole world. It consists primarily in accepting a new thinking model which involves human spirituality. It must never be forgotten that for humanity, the optimal order of tasks which are accomplished proceeds from morality and ecology to economics and politics. But in our country, it is just the other way around. Do you think that we can enter the future with the cart before the horse? From editors, specialists have acknowledged that psychological weapons exist, and the information media, which have long been a tool for ideological brainwashing of the masses, are probably one of the most potent varieties of such weapons. Let's rewind that. It says, and the information media, which have long been a tool for ideological brainwashing of the masses, are probably one of the most potent varieties of such weapons. So I just want you to keep that in mind before you let fear take over. They are trying to alter our human consciousness. They want us in a lower vibration, and we cannot let that happen.
And that your power actually resides within you in every step of the journey. And so you're learning this, like you're the prime creator here. And you're understanding this, you're calling back your strength here, and you're finding your fulfillment. And there will be victory, even if you doubt it. You don't have to do things so hard. You don't have to try so hard. You don't have to work so hard. You know, like I used to think that I did. Like I used to go gung-ho, boom, boom, reading. Now I'm just trusting the flow and going with it. When I'm called and I feel the collective needs a reading, I'm here. I'm your guide. I'm your channel. But it's also something that I know, like, I can just flow with. Like, I don't have to pump out what society wants me to, because I'm my own society. Yeah, celebrations coming here, okay? Yes, so talking about the mediumship aspect, I'll go over this really quick, and then we're going to dive into messages that your divine masculine has for you, because I feel like that's really important too. 7-11 is significant. Why? It connects to the Mongolian building that was shown to me by a friend. The Mongolian building is connected to 7-Eleven gas station. The Mongolian building is significant because it's connected to Tartaria. And there could be a lot of false information out there. And whether it's true or false, ultimately, it matters, but it also simultaneously doesn't. It's finding the key components in that history or in that lesson or in that timeline that are going to help humanity from here on out. The train's going, divine emphasis from spirit. I've been getting a lot of messages about the train, a lot of messages about Alice in Wonderland.
If you can be Alice, I'll be the Mad Hatter.
And since you guys have been really liking the Alice box, and since we've been having a lot of luck with it, we're going to be using the Alice box as well.
Were any of you actually witches?
What are some of the names? Mary,
Sarah, Bridget, Martha, Elizabeth, Susanna, George, John, Alice, Anne, Wilmot, Margaret, Samuel, and Mary.
and Emily.
Yeah, Alice. Come and see Alice.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey Alice, with Discover.
Like literally, it's been insane. It's been nonstop. Mad Hatter, Tea Party, Alice, Saint Lucy, Saint Sarah, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Yeshua, Isis, Osiris, Mongolia flower connects to Mary Magdalene somehow. There's also this print that I've talked about before that kind of looks like a cross, but it's on all these like ancient buildings and things, and it looks like this. It's like a little cross flower thing that reminds me of the Mongolia. But we have a Mongolia tree in our backyard, and it has these pods on it that look like a dragon's egg. Oh shit. And that look like the pineal gland. Okay, stay with me. I'm hearing spirit. There's spirits like literally in my house all the time, but they're being very loud and active right now. What wants to come through? Can you help me here? The dragon, Sophia, wisdom, like it all connects. It all connects is what they're saying, okay? So if you don't understand things all the time, and it could be difficult to understand, just like I said, go with the flow of it. Ultimately, you already know because the answers lie within you. And you know what symbolism is. The dragon is symbolic because not only does it represent like 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿 and then also Sophia and wisdom, but it represents way more than that. It represents like this attachment that you have to creation and the origination of creation. And I'm not talking just draconian either. There's good draconians and bad draconians. If you look at a place of duality, once you go into higher realms of consciousness and higher dimensions, there is no labels, there is no duality, and things just kind of transmute into their highest form if you're going upwards towards a higher vibrational level and plane, okay? What are they trying to tell me here? Working with your inner fire, working with your inner alchemy, that's still a strong message. You're birthing something here, lots of little somethings, because they're showing me the magnolia tree, and they keep showing me that in my backyard, and they're showing me the little pods that it makes, and they look like little dragon's eggs, and they're not on there right now, but they're showing me this. So they're red, and they look like little berries, and my husband thought they were hops on our tree, like it was like a beer tree. How cool would that be? No, but I researched it. It was definitely Mongolian. The Mongolian flower was dedicated to the sun goddesses Sana and Medusa, which is really cool because if you think of Medusa's head and the snakes coming out of it are also the sun and the rays of the sun. I think it's just expanded multidimensional consciousness. It's painted to be inferior and bad because they don't want us exploring these multidimensional realms of ourselves, like the mirrors here, right? So I'm getting like little snakes coming out of the head, little dragons being birthed from your consciousness. It's all this fire, it's all this water also, Eve too, because Eve, they're saying Eve. Okay, I don't know what all this means, but I know it connects. I know what it means, but okay, so Eve, on the eve of this, on the eve of that, it's an eve, it's a precipice coming into this expanded multi-dimensional awareness that we are still integrating and learning. All of us are learning it. We're learning how to create new doorways, new avenues. We are literally expanding the universe through our consciousness, through the different realms and explorations that we do within the mind, within the higher realms, and also here on planet Earth. It's all of it. It's all encompassing here. They're showing me the rose, the compass rose, north, south, east, west, northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest. Yeah, all of it's all encompassing, but there's more. They're showing me like realms outside of realms, and it's like an endless hallway of mirrors. And it's, some are illusory and some are not. And it's the fun within exploring all of it. You are protected. There's been a lot of messages about people feeling like they're not protected or yada, yada, yada. You are always fucking protected. If you weren't, you wouldn't survive here at all. And not even if you haven't survived here, you are still surviving even through that transformation of crossing over because you are protected. Otherwise, you just wouldn't be. You wouldn't exist. You just, and that's up to debate as well, because are we really here Do we really exist? Who knows? Competition, frustration. You're learning to let go of all these things that just don't serve the human mind anymore. They are old programs that you are transmuting and leaving behind. It's really silliness. It's tomfoolery, really. Okay, what else do they want me to talk about? Oh, that the dragon's not just fire, it's also water. It's mermaid energy. It's dragon energy. It's fire and water. Like literally that's what my chart is. I'm Pisces sun and moon, Sagittarius rising, tons of Aries in my chart, tons of Pisces in my chart, triple Pisces. And so I hold a lot of fire and water. I'm actually like evaporation and precipitation. I'm like freaking ether. I work the best with wind and air. And so that's the kind of energy that's coming in. It's like a mist. It's a mist. And it's like there, and you can kind of see it, but you kind of can't. You can feel it barely on your skin, but you're still questioning it. And that's kind of like the energies, the levels, and the gifts, and the consciousness that's being bestowed upon now. But it's going to come in more and more. A heavier mist is what I'm hearing. A heavier mist. Okay. What? Okay. Yes, self, the self, learning about the self. The self is so important. Why were they, 7-Eleven, okay, so that Mongolian building tied to Tartaria is definitely Tartarian. There's Hermes Trismegistus, Mercury on the top of it, with his staff of the caduceus, with the two serpents going up it, the two energies that go up the spine, raising into a light-winged consciousness. It's more than that, though. There's also like Isis, Osiris messages. 7-Eleven and the Pleiades was tied into, when me and Cosmic Threader, my buddy Tim, I'm just going to give him a shout out here. Go follow him on YouTube. He's cool. All my friends are cool. Like, you can't go wrong with my friends. Like, literally you can't. 7-Eleven. It was tied to the gas station 7-Eleven. There was like a huge dispute with the building. And it was also tied to the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades. And me and Tim had come across this information together when we were diving in and researching about the Mongolian building, because it won't shut up. It won't stop coming through. I need to keep diving into it. But 7-Eleven is interesting. Why? It also ties to the Winchester Mansion. And I was watching a Sam and Colby video where they explored the Winchester Mansion, and then also with Kris and Celina Spooky Boo on YouTube. I love them. Call me Kris, Celina Spooky Boo, Sam Colby. I love them. Also Garrett Watts, Shane Dawson. I like watching those people. They're all really cool. But anyway, so Sam and Colby went and explored this place, and they kept with Celina and Kris, and the Sarah Winchester of that house, like the name Sarah keeps coming through too. Sarah is a strong name. There's Sarah Good from the witch trials, where they also explored in Salem.
If you can give us answers, names, maybe years.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Sarah. Oh, that's crazy. Sarah, was that one of the names? I can't remember. But Sarah.
It's good.
It's good.
So that's coming through right now. And also Sarah Winchester, she was told by a psychic medium to keep building on this house because her husband invented the Winchester guns, and a lot of the men that were killed during battles and things were killed by the Winchester guns. And so they said to keep the spirits, happy and satisfied, she basically housed them in this huge mansion of many rooms, and to kind of I guess try to contact, I think it was her husband and her daughter. And she had tons of money, and the things that she kept in her vault to keep safe was a locket of hair from her husband, I believe, and her daughter. And so she was like really into, you know, communicating with the spiritual realm, and where she placed her house, they found, was on these landlines that directly correlate with the number 7, 11, 13.
We have a story to tell you.
7-Eleven is downstairs.
And then every other architecture thing is 13, right?
7, 11, 13. We've said that all night. And so have you guys ever heard about something called numerology? Every single person, every object, every place has a number that has a spiritual meaning. And we did some research about all of our specific numbers.
Oh. So here's the exciting part. Now, in order to learn a little bit more about numerology, we ended up talking with an expert, specifically on what our numbers are.
Hi, I'm 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿. I'm a numerologist and an author. So numerology is an ancient branch of esoteric wisdom similar to astrology, but instead of using the planets and the cosmos to kind of explain the energy around us and tell us who we are, numerology uses numbers.
So this is how we figured out we were connected to the Winchester house, and it's based on our life path numbers.
Every single number reduces down to 1 through 9. The only spiritual outliers are 11, 22, and 33.
And after doing the math, we figured out that adding Celina's birth date together equals the number 6 in numerology, which is the protector. You're number 6, the protector. The life path 6 leads with their heart, exactly what the medium was saying. With hope and empathy, their greatest goal is to protect those they love.
That's exactly what he said.
Just said that.
You are definitely the person that's there for everybody when they call.
No, yeah, that's on point for Celina. She's the most caring person ever, and she'll do anything for anybody.
Oh.
I love her so much.
The numerologist said that my life path number is 9, aka the guide. And apparently, I am Colby's guide in this life.
Sam was my guide in life, and that's why we met so early on.
Aw, that's you got dad vibes.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time. It's super dad. Yeah, we do.
And to me, this is so weird because we met in band camp at 14 years old, and ever since then, we have been by each other's side for 10 years plus.
What's even crazier is I think your life path number.
You are actually a life path 11, which is the psychic.
Oh!
Wait, that's crazy.
That's actually crazy because we had like a whole season of videos about how we think that he might be more psychic than everybody
empathic.
No, wait, you're actually extremely psychic. Most people I know who are life path 11 actually work as professional psychics.
Really?
Oh my god! And what are the odds out of all of the numbers? You are one of those spiritual outliers. 11, 22, and 33. You are one of them.
Master numbers are 11, 22, and 33. So they're the master teachers in the world. So they're actually meant to shift humanity on like a really big level, right? You're here to help shift consciousness on the planet.
Oh.
Because of that, 11s tend to be late bloomers.
Yeah, I'm a late bloomer with everything in my life.
Everything.
This is where it gets fucking crazy, okay?
Oh my god.
Chris, your birth date number equals 33.
The rarest number, the teacher. Life path 33 has the gift to spiritually empower others. Oh my god, absolutely perfect. Celina and Kris mixing together. Those 3 spiritual outliers, 11, 22, and 33, are all considered empathic psychic numbers.
No way! What is happening? Right after that shit happened? Are you kidding me?
She is 33. You are 11. 2 of the rare spiritual outliers, all here together.
But that's not all.
But that's not all. And this is the craziest one.
Oh my god.
Colby is an 11. You're a 33. Sarah Winchester built this house on 3 numbers, 7, 11, and 13.
You always reduce things to its purest form in numerology.
So you might be wondering what would happen if you had a number outside of the 1 through 9, like 14 for example. You would just add the numbers 1 and 4 and there you go, it's 5.
7, 11, 13. Adding up those 3 with the cipher equates to 22. The final spiritual outlier. 11, 33 with Kris, 22 with the Winchester house itself.
22 is considered to be the most powerful number in numerology.
What?
It's considered, well, wait, it's actually considered the master architect. So
Oh my god! What? How? Architect. But the spiritual power of 22 is the master architect. AKA the one that built this entire house. 22 represents the master architect.
And she's built it on those numbers.
She's for
Oh my
spiritual energy.
Oh my god.
She is creating a spiritual communicative house for 36 years. And like the medium said, was for communication. It was for the spirits. Everything is connected.
Supposed to be here.
Yeah. That's what we were saying. We were saying, okay, so the psychic today, what was she saying? No, I don't believe this girl is crazy. I think she was here to build things for the spirits.
Yeah.
It all connects. Those 7, 11, and 13 was a sign. It was literally saying, no, I am this architect for the spirit world.
Remember us saying she was like a child prodigy genius with math and science?
Yeah.
She built this place in a code to try to give hints to people and investigators in the future that this is like a beacon of communication to the spirit world, and tell them about the house.
The addresses number is a house of 3. 3 is communication. If it was 1 or 2 things, if it was 4 or 5 things, maybe, but every single thing about this scenario tonight is connected. And that is why we believe this was a spiritual beacon. This was the Grand Central Station, and we are meant to be here.
That's crazy!
It is mind-blowing. There was a meaning. What was that? And why are we so intertwined with this storyline?
The signs
The signs?
Found.
Yes, we found the signs tonight.
in the bear channel.
We want to channel the energy of Sarah Winchester. Are you here?
Does sacred geometry have a lot to do with everything you built? Do the numbers mean something?
Here? Were you trying to give us a sign with the architecture here?
Yes,
Do you know the real reason that this house was created?
told you.
Is this house a portal?
Home,
They stay here. This is their home.
Is it a home for spirits? The afterlife?
merge, abducting,
Merge the afterlife to merge with this life. Did you want to tell people about the afterlife?
tomorrow,
About tomorrow. The future?
forever, portal.
Holy shit, dude! So if this is a portal,
I know, through me.
I just want to get to the bottom of this. Why are we connected to this?
Favorite.
Did you like us specifically because we could tell people your plan?
Spirits, gift.
About the spirits gift here. Was 7, 11, and 13 all a sign? Were you actually doing that on purpose? That is what we think.
To protect.
It's gonna be forever.
Spread your message to the world right now. A lot of people are watching. What can you tell them?
Real.
Like the afterlife is real?
Now.
What do you want to tell them? What's real? This house? This portal?
Liar. A gun.
It was lying
right
about
now.
the gun. Lying about the gun? Like
22.
Curse. 22. 2022. Oh my god, the 100-year anniversary. 100-year anniversary of Sarah Winchester's death.
A warm heart, don't
22.
It was literally trying to tell everybody that things are real. This is real. So one last time.
Correct.
Oh my god! There it is. Holy shit. Yo.
We're really curious of yours. We want to hear yours first.
What in this world could attract more eyes than the craziest house ever built?
She's ahead of her time.
And she used the code so she could literally let people know she was trying to show people a higher spiritual knowledge.
Want to hear something crazy? There's also one number that for the last year and a half of doing these investigations, we've been hearing. The number 7.
The whole point of the 7 is to gather knowledge and then to share that knowledge.
It's the number that represents the quest to understand spiritual knowledge. That quest for that knowledge, a number that we've been hearing over and over in all of our investigations. The entire spirit world might have been telling us that we are on a quest for knowledge with that number 7.
After this, I feel just so inspired.
I am going to be reading an article here talking about Sarah Winchester, and it's titled The Truth About Sarah Winchester. Now, definitely listen, because there's a lot here, yes, but it makes a lot of sense, and it's going to tie into everything, and it's fascinating. So I stumbled upon this last night. And I am completely blown away because it ties in everything that I got from the first few parts of this reading that I uploaded to my YouTube channel a couple days ago or like a day ago. And then I come across this and it pretty much validifies everything that I was receiving intuitively and psychically. So we're going to get into it. You can find this article on the website, thetruthaboutsarahwinchester.com. and it's titled that, and it's called The Truth About Sarah Winchester, the Belle of New Haven. So her birth name was Sarah Lockwood Pardee. She was the fifth of 7 children. Now take note of the numbers too. She was the fifth of 7 children born to Leonard Pardee and Sarah Burns. There are no existing records or any other form or factual information to establish Sarah's date of birth. Even the year remains unknown. The scarce information that survives from the historical record indicates that her birth must have occurred somewhere between 1835 and 1845. At the time of Sarah's birth, the Pardees were a respectable upper middle class New Haven family. Her father, Leonard, was a joiner by trade whose shrewd sense of business found him moving up the ladder of polite society as a successful carriage manufacturer. Later, during the Civil War, he made a fortune supplying ambulances to the Union Army. Young Sarah's most distinguishing characteristics was that she was everything but ordinary. Like Francis Bacon, she was a child prodigy. Moreover, by all accounts, she was also considered to be quite beautiful. By the age of 12, Sarah was already fluent in Latin, French, Spanish, and Italian languages. Holy cow. Furthermore, her knowledge of the classics, most notably Homer and Shakespeare, along with a remarkable talent as a musician, was well noticed. It is no wonder that the New Haven Society would eventually dub her the Belle of New Haven. In addition to Sarah's brilliance and respectable place in society, there were several factors about New Haven that presented a unique influence on her upbringing. To begin, there was Yale University, originally known as Yale College. From its inception, Yale and New Haven was a hub of progressive, Freemasonic Rosicrucian thinking and activity. As a result, Sarah was raised and educated in an environment ripe with Freemasonic and Rosicrucian philosophy. Several of Sarah's uncles and cousins were Freemasons. But more importantly, at an early age, she was admitted to Yale's only female scholastic institution known as the Young Ladies Collegiate Institution. 2 of the school's most influential administrators and professors, Judson A. Root and his brother N.W. Taylor Root, were both Rose Croix Freemasons. In addition to the liberal arts, the Roots set forth a strict curriculum consisting of the sciences and mathematics. Furthermore, 2 of Sarah's schoolmates, Susan and Rebecca Bacon, were the daughters of New Haven's highly respected Reverend Dr. Leonard Woolsey Bacon, in parentheses, no relation to Francis Bacon. While Sarah and the Bacon girls were attending the school, Dr. Bacon's sister Delia, also a New Haven resident, attracted considerable fame and attention for writing her famous treatise that Sir Francis Bacon, with the aid of a circle of the finest literary minds, Elizabethan Jacobean age, was the actual author, editor, and publisher of the original works of Shakespeare. Her work was sponsored by the author Nathaniel Hawthorne and was later supported by the likes of Ralph Waldo Emerson and Mark Twain. Wow. In addition to her writing, Delia Bacon gave numerous public lectures to the citizens of New Haven. Thus, New Haven, Connecticut, was the actual birthplace of the Bacon is Shakespeare doctrine. So a lot of people say that Francis Bacon is Shakespeare. Given her direct exposure to the Baconian doctrine, along with her passion for the Shakespearean works, it was inevitable that Sarah Pardee was drawn like an irresistible force to a more than passing interest in the new theorem. Moreover, the Baconian Masonic preoccupation with secret encryption techniques using numbered cipher systems most certainly influenced young Sarah's world view. This unique backdrop to Sarah's early development played a crucial role which, in essence, defined what would become her life's work. Now, there's these Baconian Francis Bacon ciphers that it'll go into here in a minute, which is crazy because I wrote one down yesterday in pertinence to Nikola Tesla's name, and I got one of the most infamous numbers that arises multiple times within this article. So very cool. And I have proof of it on my phone just to show you guys. It's literally insane. So, as we shall see, the Belle of New Haven became a staunch Baconian for the rest of her life. She also acquired a vast and uncanny knowledge of Masonic Rosicrucian ritual and symbology. Additionally, she gravitated to theosophy. Author and historian Ralph Rambo, who actually knew Sarah, wrote, "It is believed that Mrs. Winchester was a theosophist." Rambo didn't elaborate on the matter, but since he was so close to Sarah, he was certainly in a position to know some things about her. It should be noted that most Rosicrucians are theosophists. Sarah adhered both to Bacon's Kabbalistic theosophy and the theosophical perspective held by Rudolf Steiner from 1861 to 1925. Steiner viewed the universe as a vast living organism in which all things are likened to individually evolving units or cells that comprise a greater universal synergistic body that is ever building, quote unquote, ever building. As we shall see further, the ever building theme was at the core of Sarah's methodologies. William and Annie. Okay, so William Wirt Winchester was born in Baltimore, MD, on July 22nd, 1837. He was the only son of Oliver Fisher Winchester and Jane Ellen Hope. In keeping with a popular trend of the day, he was named after William Wirt, the highly popular and longest-serving Attorney General of the United States. Soon after William's arrival, the Winchesters moved to New Haven, where the enterprising Oliver, along with his partner John Davies, found a successful clothing manufacturing company. Gradually, the Winchester patriarch amassed a considerable fortune. Later, Oliver channeled his efforts into a firearms manufacturing venture that eventually, in 1866, evolved into the famous Winchester Repeating Arms Company. According to historical documents, the Winchesters and the Pardees were well acquainted, particularly, though, the auspices of New Haven's First Baptist Church. Additionally, Sarah Pardee and William's sister Annie were classmates at the Young Ladies Collegiate Institute. And this is weird because I saw the name Annie yesterday while watching Home Alone 2 with my daughter when he's in New York in that man's toy store, Duncan, Mr. Duncan, and when the man is handing 𝐏𝐤𝐿𝐼 𝐿𝐼 the two turtle doves, it says St. Anne's in the background, and here we are reading about Annie, and that name just keeps coming up. So, not far away, William attended New Haven's Collegiate and Commercial Institute, another arm of Yale College. Here, William's teachers included N.W. Taylor Root, one of Sarah's instructors, and Henry E. Pardee, who was another one of Sarah's cousins. Thus, young Sarah and William found themselves studying virtually the same curriculum under very similar circumstances. Moreover, like the Pardees, the Winchester family was not lacking in members who were Freemasons. Sarah and William were married on September 30th, 1862. Their only child, Annie Pardee Winchester, came into the world on July 12th, 1866. Unfortunately, due to an infantile disease known as marasmus, a severe form of malnutrition due to the body's inability to metabolize proteins, Annie died 40 days later. In 1880, that's like so sad. I can't even imagine. So in 1880, Oliver Fisher Winchester died, leaving the succession of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company to his only son. 1 year later, William died of tuberculosis at the age of 43. The double loss of Annie and William was a staggering blow to Sarah. However, the loss did leave the widow Winchester with an inheritance of $20 million, plus nearly 50% of the Winchester arms stock, which in turn earned her approximately $1,000 per day in royalties for the rest of her life, the result of which made her one of the wealthiest women in the world. It's 11:19 right now on my clock. And I would much rather have my loved ones around me than money, and I'm sure she felt the same way. It's just this is a very sad story, but it's also very fascinating. So, Europe and California. According to Ralph Rambo, Sarah went on a 3-year world tour before settling in California in 1884. The New Haven Register, dated 1886, lists Sarah as having been removed to Europe. No other information has survived to tell us exactly where Miss Winchester went during those years or what her activities consisted of, but we can project some well-educated theories. Although Freemasonry has traditionally barred women from its membership, there are numerous documented cases in which some headstrong women have gained admittance into liberal Masonic lodges as far back as the 18th century. A movement in France called Co-Freemasonry, which allows for male and female memberships, was already underway when Sarah arrived in that country. Given her social status, a prediction towards Freemasonic tenets, and a mastery of the European languages, Sarah could easily have been admitted into any of the permissive French Masonic lodges. Another possible scenario involving Mrs. Winchester's activities while abroad could well have included visits to esoteric architectural landmarks such as the French Cathedral of Chartres. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sarah's Masonic Rosicrucian interest in labyrinths would have drawn her to Chartres with its 11 circuit labyrinth, a puzzle-like feature that stresses the discipline of the initiate tradition of the ancient mystery schools. Likewise, she would also have found inspiration in the Freemasonic symbology and the mysterious structure, including a staircase that leads to nowhere, of Roslin Chapel in Scotland. Sound familiar? In 1884, Sarah took up residence in the San Francisco Bay Area, eventually moving inland to the Santa Clara Valley, now San Jose, to buy an 8-room farmhouse from one Dr. Robert Caldwell. Is that? Yeah, I had a dream about a Professor Caldwell a long time ago. This is getting interesting. Okay, so her apparent motive for the move was to live in close proximity to her numerous Pardee relatives, most of whom had come to California during the 1849 gold rush and were scattered from Sacramento to the Bay Area. One of these Pardee relatives, Enoch H. Pardee, had become a highly respected physician and politician while living in Oakland. Later, his son George C. Pardee followed in his father's footsteps, rising to the office of Governor of California from 1903 to 1907. It is interesting that Wikipedia makes particular note of Enoch Pardee having been a prominent occultist, quote unquote. Most likely, the occult reference has to do with the fact that both Enoch and his son George were members of the highly secretive and mysterious California-based Bohemian Club, which was an offshoot of Yale's Skull and Bones Society. Moreover, Enoch and George were Knights Templar Freemasons. Also interesting is the fact that President Theodore Roosevelt, another member of the Bohemian Club, came to California in 1903 to ask Governor Pardee to run as his vice presidential candidate in 1904 national election. The offer was turned down. During the same trip, Roosevelt attempted to visit Sarah Pardee Winchester. Again, Roosevelt's offer was turned down. Wow. Next section, the house is what it's called. The house. After purchasing Dr. Caldwell's house, along with its 161 acres of farmland, Mrs. Winchester hired a crew of approximately 20 carpenters and began the implementation of a vast building project that lasted until her death 38 years later. The construction of the house was an ever-building enterprise in which rotating shifts of workers labored 24 hours per day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. With Mrs. Winchester as its only architect, the house gradually mushroomed outward and upward, reaching a height of 7 stories in some places and encompassing 500 to 600 rooms. The 1906 earthquake reduced the house to 4 stories. Thereafter, Sarah refrained from venturing any higher. Aside from its immense size and Victorian-style architecture, the house has a number of unique characteristics. To begin, it is undeniably a labyrinth. There are literally miles of maze-like corridors and twisting hallways, some of which have dead ends, forcing the traveler to turn around and back up. There are also some centrally located passages and stairways that serve as shortcuts, allowing a virtual leap from one side of the house to the other. Traversing the labyrinth is truly dizzying and disorienting to one's sensibilities. The house abounds in oddities and anomalous features. There are rooms within rooms. There is a staircase that leads nowhere, abruptly halting at the ceiling. In another place, there is a door which opens into a solid wall. Some of the house's 47 chimneys have an overhead ceiling, while in some places there are skylights covered by a roof, and some skylights are covered by another skylight, and in one place there is a skylight built into the floor. There are tiny doors leading into large spaces, and large doors that lead into very small spaces. In another part of the house, a second-story door opens outward to a sheer drop to the ground below. Moreover, upside-down pillars can be found all about the house. Many visitors to the Winchester mansion leave justifiably compared its strange design to the work of the late Dutch artist M.C. Escher. They show a picture of the door leading to nowhere, the stairs leading to nowhere, the skylight embedded on the floor, and the front of the Winchester mansion here. Here's where it gets good, you guys. Okay, so just trust me here. Adding further to the mysterious features, the prime numbers 7, 11, and 13 are repeatedly displayed in various ways throughout the house, the number 13 being most prominent. These numbers consistently show up in the number of windows in many of the rooms, or the numbers of stairs in the staircases, or the number of rails on the railings, or the number of panels on the floors and walls, or the number of lights on a chandelier, etc. Unquestionably, these three prime numbers, 7, 11, and 13, were extremely important to Sarah and, in quotation marks, to Francis Bacon. While ahead of her time, Mrs. Winchester employed many high-tech inventions of her day. She is believed to have been the first builder to use of wool insulation. The house was lit with carbide gas lights that were supplied by its own gas manufacturing plant. Panels of electric buttons were used to operate the lights by means of electromechanical strikers that cause a spark to ignite the various lamps. Sarah was also among the first to make use of a shower and elevators, 2 driven by hydraulics and a 3rd by electricity. She's like literally a genius. Practically a small town unto itself, the Winchester estate was virtually self-sufficient with its own carpenter and plumber's workshops, along with an on-premise water and electrical supply and a sewage drainage system. News of Mrs. Winchester's death, which was September 5th, 1922, found her workers halting construction, leaving nails half-driven into the walls. The train. In accordance with her 12-page, 13-part will that was signed by her 13 times, Sarah and her entire estate divided up in generous portions to be distributed among a number of charities and those people who had faithfully spent years in her service. Her favorite niece and secretary, Marion Marriott, oversaw the removal and sale of all of Sarah's furnishings and personal property. Roy Leib, Miss Winchester's attorney of many years, had been named in her will as executor to her estate. He sold the house to the people who in 1933 preserved it as a living museum today. It is known as the Winchester Mystery House, also known as California's Historical Landmark number 868. Though no mention has ever surfaced as to any specific guidelines or special instructions by which Mr. Leib would select a buyer for the property, one gets the distinct impression that Sarah wanted the house to stand intact and perpetually preserved. And so it does. The folklore. Despite the fact that Sarah Winchester was extremely secretive about herself, nearly all of what the public thinks it knows about her reads like a mishmash of gossip out of the National Enquirer. I refer to this body of misinformation as the folklore. Indeed, on one of my many research visits to the Winchester Mystery House, a senior tour guide informed me that in the old days, the tour guides were encouraged to make up stuff just to give some spice to the story. The folklore about Sarah says that after William's death in 1881, the highly distraught Mrs. Winchester sought the advice of then famous Boston medium Adam 𝐿𝐭𝐮. During a seance with 𝐿𝐭𝐮, Sarah was told that because of the many people who had been slain by the Winchester rifle guns, she was cursed by the Winchester fortune. So 𝐏𝐿's further instructed Sarah that the angry spirits demanded that she move to California and build them a house. Upon her arrival in California, Sarah began holding her own seances every midnight so that she could receive the next day's building instructions from the spirits. Her seances allegedly involved the use of a Ouija board and planchette, and 13 various colored robes she would ritualistically wear each night for the edification of the spirits within the confines of her quote-unquote seance room. To further appease the angry spirits, Mrs. Winchester made sure the construction of the house went on non-stop, 24/7, 365 days a year for fear that she should ever stop building, that she would die. For some inexplicable reason, however, Mrs. Winchester took precautions in the building design so as to incorporate all the strange features of the house to confuse the evil spirits. Moreover, she would ring her alarm bell every night at midnight to signal the spirits that it was seance time, and then again at 2 a.m., signaling the spirits that it was time to depart. Which begs the question, who is in charge of whom? And why would spirits have an inability or need to keep track of time? Furthermore, Sarah infused the numbers 7 and 11 into the architecture because they are lucky numbers. And the number 13? Well, as everyone knows, that's an unlucky number which Miss Winchester used to ward off the evil spooks. She also slept in a different room every night as an extra measure to throw the spirits off her trail. Whenever I make mention of Sarah Winchester, the typical response I get from people is, "Oh yeah, wasn't she the crazy lady who built that weird house because she was afraid the spirits would kill her?" Many of these people have never been to the Winchester house. Their source is usually television. America's Most Haunted Places tops the list of TV shows that grossly reinforces this folklore. The misinformation is further compounded by the haunted house tour business thriving in San Jose as the commercial enterprise known as the Winchester Mystery House, which profits by perpetuating the folklore myth. In fairness to the management of this house, they try to present Miss Winchester in a positive light. However, their Halloween flashlight tours, along with booklets, postcards, coffee mugs, and other sundry items being sold in the souvenir shop displaying the title "The Mansion Designed by Spirits," only enhances the folklore versions of Sarah Winchester's life. You've got to hand it to them. They've created a highly effective marketing strategy for a very lucrative commercial enterprise. These are good people who mean well, but this is hardly the legacy Sarah wanted to leave to posterity. Dispelling the myth. As with Francis Bacon, Sarah Winchester's legacy has fallen victim to the Liberty Valance effect, i.e., when the legend becomes fact, print the legend. Fundamentally, the tour guides at the Mystery House know the canned patter they use to feed the tourists is mostly folklore. But why bother looking beyond the superficial orthodox folklore when it's much more convenient to embrace the myth and keep recalling and keep reciting the mantra? We'll never know what Miss Winchester's thoughts and motives were. However, historians and archaeologists would sharply disagree. Particularly when the person of interest has deliberately gone to great lengths to leave a well-designed trail of clues and artifacts to follow. It then becomes a matter of separating fact from fiction, beginning with the elimination process. Let's start with the allegations about Sarah and Adam 𝐏𝐿. There is no record or evidence that Mrs. Winchester ever met the man, nor is there any evidence to support the idea that she was a spiritualist or had any inclination to believe in communication with the deceased. Moreover, there is absolutely no factual basis to support the idea that Sarah ever used the so-called seance room for the purpose of conducting seances. Her closest companion and nurse of many years, Henrietta Servers, firmly denied that Mrs. Winchester had any spiritualist leanings. Furthermore, would odd features built into a house confuse evil spirits? Perhaps the better question is, why would anything that is strange or not understood have to be explained as being related to the spirit world, quote unquote? And finally, if Mrs. Winchester truly believed that she was cursed by the Winchester fortune, why would she exacerbate the matter by continuing to own vast shares of stock in the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, then later acquire still greater controlling shares that she maintained and profited from for the rest of her life? Unquestionably, for many people, the folklore is entertaining, but it is complete fabrication. With regard to Sarah's profited from for the rest of her life. Unquestionably, for many people, the folklore is entertaining, but it is complete fabrication. With regard to Sarah's reason for building the house the way she did, the author Ralph Rambo states, "The great question is yet to be answered. Why? Why?" Mystery solved. Once the folklore is set aside, the bare bones of Sarah's mystery are more easy to examine. In fact, once the folklore is set aside, the bare bones of Sarah's mystery are more easy to examine. In fact, the term mystery is much too ethereal, implying an unreachable quality that which cannot be ascertained. Sarah made certain her legacy was well within reach and capable of being understood. Therefore, like the folklore, the term mystery would be put aside and replaced with the more appropriate term puzzle. Like the Chartres Cathedral in France or Roslin Chapel in Scotland, Sarah's architectural legacy is an artful puzzle. Why is a matter of connecting the dots and properly assembling the pieces of the puzzle Sarah has generously left behind. Furthermore, she began crafting her puzzle long before the construction of the house. Encryption codes, the Winchester-Bacon connection. As noted earlier, young Sarah Pardee was raised in an educational environment in which she had direct exposure to the influence of Masonic Rosicrucianism and Baconian concepts. One of these concepts involves the labyrinth aspect of the house's design. The ancient mystery schools emphasize the tradition of the initiate. The novice student, called the initiate or candidate, was required to undergo a series of tests in order to prove that he was ready and worthy to advance to successfully higher levels of learning. These levels are called degrees. In ancient times, the initiate was subjected to a test called the labyrinth. The labyrinth was usually an underground or enclosed maze-like structure consisting of dark, winding stairs and passageways. The initiate had to successfully find the correct path through the labyrinth's numerous pitfalls, obstacles, and traps. The purpose of the test was to force the initiate to develop and hone his powers of intuition and insight. Although Sarah's labyrinth house serves the same function as the ancient prototypes, her labyrinth is more a symbolic introductory step into her puzzle. The greatest test for the initiate lies in his ability to understand and identify Mrs. Winchester's remarkable mix of symbols and numbered code. Sarah's love of geometry and specific symmetric numbers is prominently displayed throughout the house. But most importantly, as we shall see, Sarah adopted the numeric, cryptographic techniques of Francis Bacon, incorporating them into her architecture along with the specific Baconian symbols. Let's examine them. One of Francis Bacon's many achievements in the field of encryption are his various cipher techniques. In fact, his bilateral cipher was so effective it became the model for modern-day Morse code and computer operating systems. As we have seen, Bacon infused coded cipher messages in all his works, including the Shakespearean plays and sonnets and his translated work known as the King James Bible. As early noted, most of Bacon's ciphers involve the use of numerological and gematria tables. Such tables matched the 24 letters of the Elizabethan Jacobean alphabet with specific numbers. The codes used by Bacon were generally a mixture of 5 different tables: simple cipher, K cipher, reverse cipher, short cipher, and the Pythagorean cipher. Later, when the English alphabet expanded to 26 letters, the Pythagorean 1 through 9 table became the paradigm used by modern numerologists. Sarah Pardee adopted all of Bacon's encryption tables. However, the 1 through 9 Pythagorean table was her primary cipher of choice. So this is a picture of the Pythagorean 1 through 9 table, and this is very similar to what I drew out yesterday before even reading this. Using the Pythagorean table is a simple matter of matching the letters in a name or word with their corresponding numbers. Then adding the numbers together, you will have one simplified number. For example, the name Sarah equals a 20, which then simplifies to a 2 because zeros are regarded as nulls and are not counted. Pardee equals 31, so 3 plus 1 equals 4, so Pardee is a 4. Thus, Sarah Pardee equals 6. Sarah's full name, however, was, so Sarah Pardee, because it's a 2 and a 4, 2 plus 4 equals 6. So thus Sarah Pardee equals 6. Sarah's full name, however, was Sarah Lockwood Pardee. So her middle name, Lockwood, adds up to a 25, which then simplifies down to a 7. And 7 plus 6 equals 13. And 13 simplifies to a 4, because 1 plus 3 equals 4. Francis Bacon didn't adhere to the strict application of the simplification rule. As we have seen in earlier chapters, the name Bacon in simple cipher adds up to the number 33. For personal and mathematical reasons, he elected to have that number represent his last name rather than the number 6. Likewise, the name Bacon, in accordance with the K cipher table, adds up to the number 111. As we have seen, this number, the second code number he used to represent his last name. For reasons I will soon make clear, we know that with certainty that young Sarah followed Bacon's example. In fact, the plot grows thicker when we note that the names Sarah Pardee and Francis Bacon both correspond in the Pythagorean cipher with the number 51. Moreover, when she included her middle initial L, the numbers in Sarah's name then added up to 54. When reversed is a 45, corresponding to the name of Shakespeare. When Sarah first met William Wirt Winchester, she would have found his numbers to be nothing short of miraculous. First, his name, now listen to this, and we're talking about twin flame stuff. So just think about this for a second, okay? Before I tell you this, okay? Just keep that in the back of your mind. When Sarah first met William Wirt Winchester, she would have found his numbers to be nothing short of miraculous. First, his name adds up in the Pythagorean cipher to the number 111, just like Bacon in the K cipher. And second, when each of William's names are simplified, they become 777, i.e. William is 34, 3 plus 4 is 7, Wirt equals 25, 2 plus 5 is 7, and Winchester equals 52, 5 plus 2 is 7, 777. As earlier noted, the number 777 is extremely important to Kabbalists, Rosicrucians, and Freemasons. Moreover, William's full name amounts to 21 letters. 21 consists of 3 sevens, and as we shall see, this is a consistent theme with all of the names in the Winchester family. Furthermore, the initials WWW equate to 555, another crucial Kabbalistic Masonic number. Many married couples like to say their union is the product of some kind of ineffable destiny. Sarah and William's destiny was not ineffable. Notwithstanding their mutual love, their union was destined by numbers. So here's a picture of Sarah Pardee Winchester. Okay, 121 Post Street. Upon her marriage to William, Sarah's numbers reached a higher level of completion. As with Francis Bacon, Sarah realized the numerical synchronicity embodied the deepest underlying dynamic of destiny. Thus, the number 51, Sarah Pardee, mating with the number 52, Winchester, combined in the most unifying of numbers, 103, or, broken down, 13. Here's a picture of William Wirt Winchester. The birth of the Winchesters' daughter, Anne Pardee Winchester, in 1866 resulted in a new set of numbers to Sarah to deal with. Mrs. Winchester carefully selected 2 primary numbers to represent her daughter's name, 11 and 77, and as we shall see, Sarah's preference for the names Annie Pardee, which is a 56, and Annie Winchester, which is a 77, were important because they demonstrated a numerical kinship between Annie and Sarah, and Annie and William. For example, the names Sarah Pardee and Annie Pardee both consist of 5 letters, followed by 6 letters, for a total of 11 letters. Moreover, the name Annie Pardee corresponds with the number 56 in the Pythagorean cipher. In a different way, each of the names William, number 34, Winchester 52, and Annie 25, Winchester 52, then simplified equate to the number 77. However, the name Annie Winchester, simplified or not, still corresponds with the number 77 Pythagorean cipher. Furthermore, the names Sarah Pardee Winchester, William Wirt Winchester, and Annie Pardee Winchester each consist of 21 letters, and as we have previously seen, 21 consists of 3 sevens, or 777. The reason we know that Sarah adopted Bacon's numerological methodology stands on the concrete evidence she left behind as testimony to her thoughts and intentions. For example, it is certain that Sarah regarded 52 as the code number representing the name Winchester, as evidenced by the 52 skylights in her house. And the fact that her earthly remains, along with those of William and Annie, are interred in plot number 52 of New Haven's Evergreen Cemetery. And just to ensure that we would understand that the connection between the number 52 and the name Winchester are not accidental, Sarah deliberately placed coded inscriptions on the 3 tombstones of the Winchester's family plot. They read Baby Ann, SLW, and WWW. These 3 inscriptions add up in the Pythagorean cipher to 52. Furthermore, in addition to the number 111, Sarah adopted the Kabbalistic number 777 as a code number representing the name William Wirt Winchester. We know this because in the decade following William's death, she maintained precisely 777 shares of stock in the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. These are not coincidences, and we know what these and other numbers meant to Sarah. As already noted, Sarah was wearing her tapestry of numbers long before she began the construction of her house. Her connection with Francis Bacon is undeniable. As we shall further see, Sarah had every reason to identify with Bacon, philosophically, artistically, and spiritually. We further note that virtually all of Bacon's work was encoded as a multi-layered puzzle for later generations of enlightened individuals to discover his work. Within his Rosicrucian circle during the writing of the Framatites, the first of Bacon's 3 Rosicrucian manifestos, reflects the use of the code name FB Architect. And indeed, Bacon saw himself, at least metaphorically, as an architect. Architect, guys. The architect theme shows up in virtually everything he produced. It is his foundation for what would rather become speculative Freemasonry, and as we would have seen, it is ubiquitous throughout his Shakespearean work. The architecture as art legacy was first passed down by the Roman architect and philosopher Marcus Vitruvius Pollio. It was Vitruvius who first expounded the virtue of the mathematical value of phi, the divine proportion, or the golden ratio. He held that architecture was the noblest and most perfect of all the art forms. The sacred knowledge of architecture was bequeathed only to the initiate who had proven to be worthy. Later in the 19th century, the Italian mathematician Leonardo Fibonacci translated phi into real numbers. This rational system of numbers is known as the Fibonacci sequence. The arcane knowledge of phi and its relationship to architecture was adopted and guarded by the Knights Templar, only to go underground after their downfall in 1307, re-emerging as the Invisible College of the Rosicrucian movement. In their book, The Templar Revelation, author Liv Picknett and Clive Prince point out the rather obscure fact that the Rosicrucian movement was the cause of the Renaissance. This was the golden age of genius, and of all the geniuses the Renaissance spawned, no one was more influential or as productive as Francis Bacon. As we have seen, he was the mastermind who single-handedly sired the English Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment that would follow. Moreover, it was Bacon who gave the Rosicrucian movement its name and articulated its purpose, and as we have seen, he created a new branch of the Rosicrucian order called speculative Freemasonry. Bacon's new revolutionary innovations in the arts and sciences were built on the solid foundation of the ancient wisdom. As with the Templars, such knowledge was to be preserved and propagated through the tradition of the initiate. Bacon's philosophy further maintained the fundamental tenets of the ancient mystery schools, i.e. architecture as art, higher dimensional unification, and most importantly, the theme of concealment. Bacon's concept of concealment originated with his view of Proverbs 25 in the Old Testament, which is, "It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter." This is the underlying principle that evolved into both modern scientific method and the Masonic Hieramic legend. Moreover, Bacon applied the theme of concealment to everything he touched, including his own life. The same was equally true of Sarah Winchester. Sarah's puzzle. Francis Bacon and Sarah Winchester both understood that the only way to reveal all that nature conceals is through the transcendental science of numbers. Therefore, following her loss of Annie and William, Sarah began to write not with words, as Bacon had, but truer to the Vitruvian tradition, she chose speak to us in the pure language of numbers and architecture over a backdrop of concealment. Like Rosslyn Chapel, the Winchester House serves as a higher dimensional puzzle. In order to discover its underlying meaning, one must follow the path of the initiate. To that end, Sarah carefully crafted Masonic and Rosicrucian features into the structure of her labyrinth house. Her concept of initiation closely parallels the Masonic and Rosicrucian method of subjecting the initiate to a series of progressive steps or degrees in which he is forced to develop his powers of intuition and insight. At the outset of each Masonic degree, the initiate or candidate expresses his wish to receive light. With that in mind, let us begin the initiate's journey down the path that Sarah laid out. For a start, the front of the house, like Solomon's temple, faces true east. This is symbolically important as the east represents the source of light, knowledge, and wisdom. Moreover, like a Masonic lodge, the house is emblematic of Solomon's temple. Mrs. Winchester regarded everyone who stepped onto her property as a prospective initiate. So naturally, the initiate's journey begins at the front wrought iron gates. Each gate is decorated with the sun symbol. The sun, you guys, remember I got that in the reading? The sun symbol with 16 radiants. This symbol was used by Bacon in many of his engravings. The only difference with Sarah's sun symbols is that instead of the usual face in the center, Sarah has inserted the image of an 8-petaled daisy. More about the 8 petals later. This is the picture of Sarah's special design for the insignia of the senior deacon of a Masonic Blue Lodge. So see that sun with the 8-petaled daisy in the center. The significance of the 16 radiants is multi-layered, but the primary importance here is that the pair of 16s standing side by side is a reference to the calendar year 1616. This was perhaps the most pivotal year in Bacon's life. It marked both the death of his front man, Will Shakespeare, and the birth of his new secret society of speculative Freemasonry. And this was the year in which Bacon wrote and published his third and final Rosicrucian manifesto, the chemical wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz. Secondly, the number 16 simplifies down to a 7, thus leaving us with a pair of 7s. As we shall see in Sarah's ballroom, 7s are displayed in a more profound way. Sarah's insertion of daisies in the center of the 2 sun symbols on the front wrought iron gates are important because the daisy represents the 2 essential qualities of the initiate, innocence and fidelity. Moreover, the sun symbol is the insignia of the senior deacon of a Masonic lodge. It is the senior deacon who acts as the initiate's guide throughout his initiation in all 3 of the Blue Lodge degrees. By passing through Sarah's gates, the initiate becomes his own guide and pursues the path of self-initiation. Once inside the gates, looking straight ahead, we view the front of the house through the frame of 2 palm trees that represent the twin porch pillars known as 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐿 and 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿 at the entrance of the Solomon's Temple. For all Masonic initiates and candidates, these are the first features they will pass through when entering the lodge room. This is a view of the house from the front gate. After passing through the pillars, the initiate then symbolically ascends a winding staircase leading into the temple. Instead of allowing admittance in the front of the house, Mrs. Winchester requires people to enter from the rear, through one entrance strategically located near the northwest corner. Northwest. Remember I was getting the compass in like those directions? It's interesting. Okay. Her reason for this has to do with the fact that all Masonic initiates must enter the lodge room through its northwest corner. The entrance, referred to by the tour guides as the switchback staircase or the goofy, is built so as to wind from the center outward, round and round in the shape of the Archimedes spiral until it reaches the second floor. This is the middle section of Jacob's Ladder. This is the staircase they're talking about, the picture right there. It has 44 tiny steps. Each step is just under 2 inches in height. Thus, the effect is more like walking up a ramp than climbing a set of stairs. Additionally, the staircase has 7 turns here. Sarah has ingeniously blended the symbolism of the winding staircase of the second Masonic decrees with the symbolism of Jacob's Ladder. According to the Kabbalistic and Masonic traditions, Jacob's Ladder is a ramp that winds around 7 turns, ascending up into heaven. Moreover, each of the 7 turns represents a progressively higher degree of enlightenment. Also, the 7 turns symbolize the 7 liberal arts and sciences. And I literally was looking at this picture yesterday, as you'll see in my phone.
The seventh turn symbolizes the 7 liberal arts and scientists as explained to the initiate in the winding staircase lecture of the second Masonic degree. The most crucial room in which Sarah wants the initiate to begin his journey of discovery is the ballroom. This is the only room in the house which was constructed almost entirely without nails. As an important feature that mimics the building of Solomon's temple. Entering the ballroom, we notice a beautiful parquet floor with light and dark squares, bearing a striking resemblance to the checkered mosaic floors of the Masonic lodge rooms. That's the ballroom there. Stepping further into the ballroom, we have no choice but notice the obvious elephants Sarah uses to capture our attention. And these are 2 elongated stained glass windows which flank both sides of the room's fireplace. The Shakespearean windows courtesy of the Winchester Mystery House. Right here. So the 2 stained glass windows incorporate designs that were used by Francis Bacon, including his familiar winding banner. With the exception of the inscriptions written on the banners, the windows are exact mirror images of each other. Knowing the Occidental mind reacts from left to right, Sarah wanted the initiate to start with the left window. The inscription on the banner reads, "Wide unclasp the tables of their thoughts." This line is from Act 4, Scene 5 of the Shakespearean play Troilus and Cressida. It should not surprise us that Sarah chose to start the initiate's journey of discovery with words from this particular play. Clearly, Sarah was aware of Bacon's placement of the name Winchester as the 20th word from the play's end. It would be naive to think she didn't see the precise match with her name, i.e. 20 equals Sarah, accordance to the Pythagorean cipher. And as we shall see, Sarah provided numerous coded messages to confirm her connections with Bacon. The inscription on the banner in the right window reads, "These same thoughts people this little world." This line is from Act 5, Scene 5 of the Shakespearean play Richard II. The explained text from which these words appear reads, "My brain I'll prove the female to my soul the father, and these 2 beget a generation of still breeding thoughts, and these same thoughts people this little world, and humorous like the people of this world, for no thought is contented, that better sort, as thoughts of things divine are intermixed." This passage is an eloquent summation of Bacon's theosophical outlook on reincarnation. Again, we should not be surprised that Sarah introduces us to her puzzle of demonstrating her view of her relationship to Bacon. Not only did she identify with him, but in all probability saw herself as Bacon reincarnate. As we shall see, Sarah manifests this view by incorporating the Winchester goose, quote unquote, as a numbered coded message in the 2 windows. The typical reaction people have when they first look at these inscriptions is that they don't seem to make sense. Along with Sarah's inclusion of one of Bacon's code devices called stops, i.e. periods or decimals, the words and manner in which they are arranged have the appearance of incompleteness, and they seem to be out of whack. And this is precisely the effect Sarah wanted the inscriptions to have on us. Sarah knew that most people would simply shrug their shoulders and walk away. Moreover, she also knew this would be the initiate's first trial or moment of truth. So we are compelled to either walk away or stand back and take a truly hard look at the matter. We are actually dealing with a choice between 2 options. 1, either Miss Winchester was crazy, or 2, she is cleverly guiding us toward an understanding of the methodology she employs for the sole purpose of her solving her puzzle. For those who would choose the first option, go ahead and walk away. Many other people have already preceded you. However, once you conclude that Sarah was sane and you opt to go with door number 2, you are compelled to see that there is a rational purpose behind all of these seemingly insane features built into the structure of the house. Moreover, you must then conclude that these Shakespearean windows function as the introductory step of Mrs. Winchester's elaborate puzzle, and she is inviting you, the initiate, to actively, not passively, participate in solving this puzzle. However, the revelations and insights to be gained through the initiatic process must be earned. Like all the other anomalous features we find in the house, Sarah wanted the display of apparent irregularity in the Shakespearean windows to utterly shock our sensibilities. Clearly, what we see before us wasn't placed there for Sarah's self-amusement. These windows were meant for other people,
And they aren't just talking to us, they're screaming at us. Sarah has left instructions. She wants us to know and understand certain things. She has gone to great pains to leave a trail of clues that will lead us to the truth. All we have to do is pay close attention and follow those clues. Damn, this is so relatable. Okay. On a superficial level, the inscription on the left is Sarah's way of saying open sesame to our minds and welcome to my puzzle. The inscription in the right window is Sarah's way of saying, once you solve my puzzle, pass the truth on to others. Notice that in choosing to use these two particular lines, she is accomplishing several things on different and deeper levels. First, Sarah wants us to achieve a better understanding of her by comparing her with 𝐕𝐢𝐝 and Richard too. And with regards to 𝐕𝐢𝐝, most people presume that Sarah is alluding to the young maiden's flirtatious nature. In fact, the traditional Orthodox scholastic view of 𝐕𝐢𝐝 is that she is a whore, quote unquote. But this is not the point that Bacon, writing as Shakespeare, is trying to make, nor is it the point that Sarah is trying to make. The deeper truth about 𝐕𝐢𝐝 is that she does whatever she must in order to survive, and Sarah, in her own way, saw herself as a survivor. As to Richard too, Sarah identifies with the irony of Richard as an imprisoned, lonely king. However, both Richard and Sarah resolve to overcome their plight with the phrase, "Yet I'll hammer it out." Get it? Because she was literally building and building upon this house. For Richard, that is meant figuratively, but for Sarah here, the interpretation took on a more literal meaning. Now that we've had a look at the superficial significance of the Shakespearean windows, let's analyze the matter more deeply. Clearly, Miss Winchester isn't whimsically playing around with these particular passages from Shakespeare. As with all things in the house, that is more here than meets the eye. Like Bacon, Sarah's use of numbers always leads us to a deeper core of meaning. The careful selection of these lines from Act 4, Scene 5, Troilus and Cressida, and Act 5, Scene 5, Richard II, reaches beyond Sarah's love of synchronicity. Borrowing from Bacon's methodology, she is purposefully showing us the numbers 45 and 55. We remember that the number 45, with regarding to the Pythagorean cipher, corresponds to the name Shakespeare. Additionally, the number 55 Pythagorean cipher matches the name 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐻. When we combine the number 45 Shakespeare and the number 55 𝐻, the result is 100, which is simple cipher for the name Francis Bacon. In one brilliant stroke, Sarah's code reveals Shakespeare, 𝐻, and Francis Bacon to be one of the same person. This is critical to understanding both Sarah's motive and thinking. Furthermore, with regard to the two Shakespearean inscriptions, Sarah has deliberately omitted the first word in each 8-word line, so as to leave only 7 words in each line. And as we saw with the front wrought iron gates, we are again left with 2 sevens. Unquestionably, she is talking to us in a numeric code, like Bacon. Sarah uses encryption code to guide us to higher levels of insight. We are forced to ask if Sarah wants us to view these as 2 separate sevens or as the number 77. Also, when we take a closer look at the words unclasp and tables, we realize that in Bacon's time, the only things to be unclasped were books, secret books, books containing encryption codes with an encryption table to decipher such codes. And in fact, some of Bacon's engravings show him holding books with clasps. But then, what are we to find such a book? And tables? Where is the encryption table? Naturally, Sarah knew that we would eventually look up at the magnificent ceiling of her ballroom. With the exception of the decorative middle panel that supports the 13-globe chandelier, we observe 9 main panels. Because we are already familiar with the numerological tables, we know that in displaying the numbers 1 through 9, Sarah is alluding to the Pythagorean table. However, she has ingeniously raised the bar by including 13 sub-panels with each of the 9 main panels. But she has done something unexpected, showing us 9 sets of the number 13. She has forced us to multiply. In fact, she has already done it for us. Sure enough, 9 times 13 equals 117. This is Bacon's code number for John D. Guys, reading this, I'm just blown away. Okay, because this is all stuff I've been researching. Moreover, we have the numbers 11 and 7 standing side by side. Thus, Sarah introduces us to multiply 11 by 7. And going back to the windows, we now have the answer to our original question. We are to view the two sevens as the number 77. Moreover, when we consult the Pythagorean table, we realize that the number 77 corresponds both to the words Winchester Goose, quote unquote, and the name Annie Winchester, her daughter. In one simple lesson, Sarah has skillfully introduced the initiate to the rudiments of her number system. Moreover, she has employed a brilliant device in the Shakespearean windows to drive home the connection between Shakespeare, Hiram Abiff, Francis Bacon, and herself. Upon closer examination to the windows, we notice that each has 3 partitions. Thus, we have the number 3 in both windows, rendering Bacon's number 33. Furthermore, Sarah's use of Bacon's stops, decimals, and periods in the inscription indicates that something is further concealed in this code. With the exception of the inscriptions on the banners, the symbolic images in the left and right windows are exact mirrors of each other, similar to Bacon's headpieces. In fact, the various symbols are distinctively Baconian. In the center of each window, we see the glass of Bacon's muse, the goddess Pallas Athena. Guys, Pallas Athena is like huge in my birth chart in accordance to the date I was born. It's just freaking cool. Okay. And she is also attributed to Medusa, which attributes to the sun symbolism. So hold on. In the center of each window, we see the glass of Bacon's muse, the goddess Pallas Athena, and we recall that her glass or mirror reflects the light of knowledge and of wisdom. Elsewhere in the windows, we see numerous crooked staffs connected to each other, like branches growing out of Athena's mythical olive tree. Remember the olive tree, olive branch? Me and my friend Janet were getting messages about electricity and Yeshua's staff and how electricity can be made from the oil of olives or the tree of olives. Athena's mythical olive tree. These staff-like branches and their distinct hooks are a direct allusion to Pan's crooked staff that is also brandished, like Athena's spear, against the serpent of ignorance. We are also reminded of the image of Francis Bacon in Whitney's Book of Emblems, stamping at the serpent with a similar staff. A close scrutiny of the bottom portion of the Shakespearean windows reveals the crooked staff entangled in a serpent-like creature. Additionally, Sarah cleverly provides subtle hints of Pan's presence as we detect glimpses of his horns, blending in with this window's overall design. Sarah's use of Pallas Athena's glass and Pan's crooked staff indicate that something more is concealed in the design of the Shakespearean windows. Furthermore, she is alluding to Bacon's underlying philosophical premise as given in Proverbs 25. It is the glory of God to conceal a thing and the glory of kings to find out a thing. As a matter of fact, on page 45 of his personal copy of the Advancement and Proficience of Learning, currently residing in the British Museum, Bacon penned a drawing of Pan's crooked staff in the margin next to this book's text regarding Proverbs 25. And just beneath the drawing, he has written the words, hide and seek, quote unquote. Adding further to the hide and seek theme, Sarah has introduced another tantalizing element to the window's design. We notice that a tiny ball is tightly tucked into the crook of Pan's staves. Sarah has intentionally shaded each ball so as to give it a 3-dimensional effect. We can clearly see that this is a ball-like feature and not a circle. The symbol should be particularly recognizable to the master Freemason, but something is missing. We haven't forgotten the Baconian stops. Sarah has incorporated in the Shakespearean inscriptions. However, these stops are shaped like small arrowheads pointing to the partitions above. Sarah is exhorting us to rearrange the order of the partitions. Using photographs of the 2 Shakespearean windows, we cut them into thirds, resulting in facsimiles of the 6 window panes. We then move them around like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. When they are properly realigned, a stunning new pattern emerges. Using Bacon's letter C figure in this double A design, Sarah has created an ingenious way to show us another word or name that is important to all master masons. It is the name from the Old Testament, 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿, quote unquote. As noted earlier, John Dee's secret signature was an elongated number 7 with 2 circles under it, representing his 007 identity. This became the basis for a hieroglyphical pun in the form of a cane flanked by 2 balls representing 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿. The Throughout the century, the Tubal-Cain symbol has employed either a cane shaped like a backwards number 7 or a cane with a simple crooked handle. Naturally, Sarah's making use of the latter form. So this is John D. signature 007, signatured as Tubal-Cain, and this traditional Tubal-Cain symbol. The top of the bottom panes, probably a rearranging showing Sarah's Tubal-Cain symbols. Historically, the Tubal-Cain symbol has generated controversy because of its phallic connotation. It is highly probable that Mrs. Winchester found the symbol too risque for her use. Thus, she devised a new symbol, representing Tubal-Cain in the form of the letter C, with 2 balls. With the properly realignment of the window 6 panels, we now have 3 letter C's, 2 of which have a ball tucked under the top and bottom horns of the letters arc. The solitary letter C, of course, is the Roman numeral 100, representing the name Francis Bacon in simple cipher. And as we have seen, the 2 letter C's facing each other gave us the number 33, Bacon in the simple cipher. Another significant symbol associated with the master mason that materializes with the proper realignment of the 6 panes of the Shakespearean windows is the hourglass. In both the Rosicrucian and Masonic traditions, the hourglass is emblematic of human life. Furthermore, the realignment of these 2 panes gives us the words, the tables of thoughts, people. This is no coincidence that these particular words, thus rearranged, now add up in the Pythagorean cipher to the number 111. You can see that, and you can also see the hourglass. So properly aligned cipher window panels showing the hourglass. There are other places in the house where the initiate will learn more lessons. For example, on the 2nd floor near the front of the house, there is a gallery of beveled stained glass windows featuring the fleur-de-lis, design associated with both the Prince of Wales and the House of Tudor. Moreover, Sarah has added a novel twist to her Tubal-Cain device by joining 2 of them in such a way as to form the number 3. Thus, she has one Tubal-Cain, number 3, displayed in the right border of the windows, and a second, reversed, number 3, shown on the left borders, rendering the number 33, within the fleur-de-lis pattern occupying the middle portion of each window. It is a virtual shrine to Bacon. Bacon fleur-de-lis windows, with left and right number 3s facing each other. Bacon's double A headpiece with fleur-de-lis design and the letter C facing each other. Not far from the Bacon fleur-de-lis windows, Sarah exhibits the most ornate stained glass window in the entire house. It is prominently displayed at the top of a 13-step staircase. It was manufactured in accordance with Sarah's specifications by the famous Tiffany Glass Company at a cost of approximately $1,500. To make matters more interesting, Sarah has the window facing north with no perceivable source of light. An important part of the puzzle goes back to Rosicrucian beginnings in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians saw the path to heaven as a 12-step staircase with a magnificent door at the top. The gate to heaven would truly be the most splendid of all. Although the 12 steps were sufficient to bring one up to the heavenly door, they were insufficient to deliver one into heaven. The riddle lay with the worthy ascendant, realizing that there is an invisible 13th step that could only be crossed once the door has been opened for him by a divine source from within. The reason for the north-facing orientation of the window is that it leads to the immortal star Sirius. To the ancient Egyptian mind, this is where heaven is located. It should also be noted that Solomon's temple had a magnificent great golden window that faced north. One of the most obvious Baconian devices in the Tiffany window are Sarah's Tubal-Cain symbols. But Sarah has introduced another clever design in the form of winding ribbons located in the upper center to take the shape of the letters W at the top and S just beneath. Notice how they mirror each other. The letters WS stand for William Shakespeare and winding stairs, while the letters SW represent Sarah Winchester. Notice that the letter W is equivalent to the number 5 in the Pythagorean cipher, and the letter S is equivalent to the number 1, hence 51. In accordance with the Pythagorean cipher, we recall that the number 51 corresponds to both the names Francis Bacon and Sarah Pardee. Moreover, with regard to the name William Shakespeare, there are 7 letters in William and 11 letters in Shakespeare, hence 711, hence 72, Sarah 20, Winchester 52. Here's a picture of that stained glass window. It's the Tiffany window, courtesy of the Winchester Mystery House. Sarah's bedroom is located on the south side of the second story. The ceiling is a perfectly square grid consisting of 49 or 7 squared individual squares, reminiscent of a mathematical table devised by John Dee. When Sarah looked up at this grid, she saw an array of significant numbers. First, she saw the number 13, or 4 plus 9 equals 13. Next, she observed 7 horizontal squares, 7 vertical squares, and 7 diagonal squares, rendering the number again 777, and by simply multiplying 777 by 13, she produced the number 10101, or which breaks down to the number 111. The bedroom's south-facing windows overlook a beautiful lawn and garden, and in the middle of the lawn we see a magnificent crescent-shaped hedge, accentuating the brilliant yellow chrysanthemums. So that's that crescent hedge as seen from Sarah's bedroom window. The significance of the unusual feature has to do first with Sarah paying homage to Francis Bacon, for the crescent moon we are about to see is emblazoned like a brand on the side of the boar in the Bacon's coat of arms. So there's his coat of arms, Francis Bacon's coat of arms, with the boar and the moon brand at the top. Because it is shaped like the Roman numeral 100, which is Lunat Sigma, Bacon used the crescent moon as another device to represent his name, and we are reminded at Bacon's word at Sonnet 111, "Thence comes it that my name receives a brand." As I'm saying that, it's 12:21 right now on my clock. Second, the Crescent was a periodical magazine of poetry and prose written under various pseudonyms by Sarah and her classmates and published by her alma mater, which was the Young Ladies Collegiate Institute of New Haven, Connecticut. The artwork on the magazine's cover featured a crescent moon in its waxing stage. So that's the front cover of that. Another important function of the crescent hedge is to emphasize the moon's relationship to the number 13. It is the lunar number because there are always 13 full moons in a year. For this reason, the Mayans and the Chinese had 13-month calendars. To this day, the 13-month calendar is more accurate than the Gregorian. Accidentally, Sarah covered the walls of her bedroom with special wallpaper displaying the triquetra symbol. According to the Celtic tradition, the triquetra represents 3 lunar goddesses, who in turn represent 3 phases of the moon. This is one of the many triquetra symbols embedded in the wallpaper of Sarah's bedroom here. And here is the Knights Templar cross with the triquetra symbols. Sarah also wanted to underscore the relationship between the moon's reflective light and the astrolight, aka the Akashic record. Here she is affirming her theosophical point of view. In the exact center of the house, we come upon the so-called seance room. Remember that this, according to the folklore, is where Sarah supposedly conducted midnight seances for the purpose of receiving building instructions from the spirits. Such a notion, as any practicing Rosicrucian knows, is utterly absurd. All Rosicrucians have a room or a space like this situated as closely as possible in the center of their homes. This serves the practical purpose of being far from the distraction of outside noise. The room is actually called the sanctum. Freemasons refer to it as the chamber of reflection. Guys, Hall of Mirrors, chamber of reflection. Okay. The sanctum is where Rosicrucians study, meditate, and perform private ritual. Sarah's sanctum is shaped like a cube, emulating the Sanctum Sanctorum, or Holy of Holies, of Solomon's temple. The room measures 11 feet by 11 feet by 11 feet. The dimensions are not accidental. Sarah uses the 11-11-11 cube for several reasons. First, like Bacon's play on the letters LLL in Love's Labour's Lost, 11-11-11, combined become the number 33. Second, 11 times 11 times 11 renders the Romanusian palindromic number 1331. Remember, I just saw 1221, you guys, on my clock? 1331. Notice the Masonic metaphor of the number 33 enclosed within the number 11, as it is flanked by the twin Masonic pillars, i.e. 1331. Also, 13 and 31 possess the unique quality of generating reverse palindromic twins when they are squared. So, get this, guys, i.e. 13 squared equals 169, and 31 squared equals 961. And finally, Sarah's use of the number 11 illustrates the simplicity of the cube's symmetry. The simplest mathematical expression of cubical symmetry is 111-111, which Sarah hoped we would discover by simply multiplying the number 11 by 777 by 13. 111,111. Originally, Sarah's Sanctum Sanctorum was painted entirely blue. This is important because it mimics the Masonic concept of the canopy of heaven, or heavenly ark, which is widely featured as part of the decor in Masonic Lodge rooms. Finally, Sarah had 13 pegs installed in one of the sanctum's walls, and each peg held a different colored robe, consisting with the Rosicrucian practice of wearing a different colored robe for each lunar month. On the ground floor, not far from Jacob's Ladder, there is an unfinished room from which Sarah planned to use as a second ballroom. Upon entering the room, we notice a rough horizontal crossbeam extending across the upper portion of the south to the wall. To the untrained eye, the beam has the appearance of just another piece of wood. However, any astute Freemason will recognize its remarkable resemblance to the 24-inch gauge of the Masonic first degree. But this facsimile of the 24-inch gauge is made to scale, spanning a length of approximately 16 feet. Moreover, the darkly stained beam has 46 lightly colored vertical rule lines which divide the gauge into 47 evenly spaced segments. Sarah clearly uses this device to exemplify Bacon's coded message in Psalms 46 of the King James Bible. The number 46, i.e. 406, represents Christian Rosicruci's K cipher, and the number 47 refers both to the Master Mason, i.e. the 47th proposition of Euclid's elements known as the Pythagorean theorem, and to the name 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿, simple cipher. We further recall how Bacon designed the text so that the word shake, the 46th word from the beginning of the psalm, is connected to the word spear, the 47th word from the psalm's end, by exactly 111 words. Moreover, when we place the numbers side by side, i.e. 47, 46, then reverse their order in accordance to the Kabbalistic Atbash cipher, i.e. 64, 47, then combines 64 and 47, and the result is 111. In another part of the house, the initiate comes to a landing connecting two staircases, each connecting to different second-story rooms. The staircase to the left has 7 stairs, while the one on the right has 11 stairs. This feature is referred to as the 711 staircase. Remember how I was getting 711 at the beginning? So notice how 711 is the reverse of the 117 displayed in the ballroom ceiling. And as we have seen, Sarah also saw it as another way to express her name. A 711 simplifies to the number 72, corresponding to Sarah, number 2, and Winchester, 52, 2052. In the Pythagorean cipher, additionally, we are reminded that the name William Shakespeare renders the number 711, as there are 7 letters in William and 11 letters in the name Shakespeare. 711. Another important aspect of the 711 staircase is that it forms a large letter Y, which symbolizes the fork in the road. And remember, guys, how I uploaded the Path Less Traveled by Robert Frost? The fork in the road, 2 paths lay before me, and I chose the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So it's like really cool. Okay, so letter Y, which symbolizes the fork in the road. The initiate must make a choice between traveling the easier left path or climb the more difficult right path. Naturally, the right path is the correct one. If a man were to traverse these stairs from the second floor left to right, he would be traveling from west to east. In all Masonic lodges, one is always regarded to be traveling from west towards the source of light in the east. Furthermore, Sarah adds a lesson in higher dimensional mathematics. When a man walks down 7 steps and then up 11 steps, what has he gained? The obvious answer is 4. But in higher dimensional mathematics, the number 4 can translate or rotate into multiple variations of itself. For example, the number 4 can be 13, 31, 22, 112, 211, or 1111. And as we shall see, there is a unique relationship between the numbers 7, 11, and 13. Thus, in a world governed by higher dimensional dynamics, the difference between 7 and 11 is the Fibonacci prime number 13. When I first walked the 711 staircase and learned this insight about the number 13, I rushed back to the ballroom. I knew that Sarah had concealed the number 13 in the middle, between the Shakespearean windows in a higher dimensional way, and sure enough, there it was, where no one would normally think to look for it. The image in the mirror above the fireplace was a reflection of the room's 13-globe chandelier. It was perfect. It was exactly as Sarah had planned it. Higher dimensional geometry. Why the Winchester house seems so mysterious. By the time Sarah Pardee was born, Francis Bacon's modern scientific method had exploded into a virtual catalog of new revolutionary theories of the intricate workings of the universe. Bacon's search for the grail of all grails, i.e. the theory of everything, quote-unquote, was well underway. Hans Christian Ørsted's discovery of the unification of electricity and magnetism in 1820, along with Charles Darwin's theory for evolution in 1838, had stirred the new scientific cauldron to such an extent that natural forces were being explained as a dynamic evolving phenomenon rather than a static passive entity. No one had understood the underlying dynamics of the universe better than Francis Bacon, who viewed nature as a model of the universe based on a set of fundamental rules and laws immanent from the outset in its ratio, order, structure, measure, and corresponding symmetries. Thus, this theory of everything had, in the Baconian sense, become a quest for the grand, unified theory of all the forces of nature. The curriculum of the Young Ladies Collegiate Institute of New Haven placed a heavy emphasis on scientific studies. Mrs. Winchester's application of the latest technological innovations in her mansion demonstrate both her scientific background and her passion for keeping up with the new discoveries. Since she clearly regarded her house as a living puzzle and a work of architectural art, we are compelled to examine the environment that influenced her views and her work. The scientific curricula that Sarah studied included Michael Faraday's seminal work on electromagnetic fields, along with the scientific and mathematical works of William Thomson, George Bernhard Riemann, and William Rowan Hamilton. The most revolutionary scientific development of young Sarah's time was the discovery that the forces of nature are a product of higher dimensional dynamics of the geometry of space. As we shall see, the anomalous features throughout Mrs. Winchester's mansion are a testament to the profound impact higher dimensional geometry had on its own design. The Riemannian Revolution. German mathematician George Bernhard Riemann, 1826 to 1866, realized that the forces of nature might be nothing more than a manifestation of the geometry of space. He reasoned that the forces might be best explained in terms of warps in a higher dimension. If space could tell mass how to move, mass would in turn have its effect on space. Moreover, Riemann realized that all space transcends the flat two-dimensional geometry of Euclid. Therefore, in describing the dynamics of space, a new higher dimensional model was required. If warps in space were the cause of natural forces such as electromagnetism and gravity, the structure of space had to conform to a higher dimensional curvature. Thus, Riemann devised a new, higher dimensional geometry that demonstrates how parallel lines can intersect, and arcs, rather than straight lines, can be shortest distance between 2 points. Moreover, Riemann's new view predicted the existence of a fourth spatial dimension. The Riemann Revolution had a profound impact both on 19th century science and Sarah Winchester. A new simplified view of the universe had opened up in which unseen forces, from the structure of atoms to the dynamics of gravity, were becoming better understood from the perspective of higher dimensional space. Riemann's geometry, along with the mathematical equations of William Thomson and William Rowan Hamilton, conclusively demonstrated the existence of higher dimensions. The concept of a fourth dimension became an obsession that permeated both the scientific and academic communities of the later 19th century. Artists and intellectuals began to express their views of how the dynamics of higher dimensional space might work. An English mathematician by the name of Charles Dodgson, writing under the pseudonym Lewis Carroll, wrote a children's book. Now, guys, this is where I damn near fainted last night. I damn near fainted, because you know how at the beginning of this reading, I was getting Alice in Wonderland, and I've been seeing it non-fucking stop for a long-ass time. Listen to this. An English mathematician by the name of Charles Dodgson, writing under the pseudonym Lewis Carroll, wrote a children's book that described the mind-boggling properties one would encounter in a fourth spatial dimension. The book, of course, was Through the Looking Glass. A fitting title, considering the glass or mirror had been regarded as a portal to higher dimensions since Dee and Bacon's time. In Carroll's Wonderland, quote-unquote, everything seemed to defy common sense. The distinction between large and small seemed to dissolve. Time could speed up, slow down, or stand still. Through the Looking Glass had many of the qualities through the looking glass had many of the qualities that would eventually be considered as hallmarks of Einstein's theory of relativity. Sarah seems to borrow from the pages of Lewis Carroll as she shows us large doors that lead into small space and small doors that lead up into ridiculously large spaces. Higher dimensions consist of a unique set of supermechanics that transcend the limited box-like structure of length, width, and height. To form an idea of that would entail, try thinking in reverse. Try to imagine what living and perceiving in two-dimensional space would be like. Everything would be completely flat. You would be unable to cross over a line. Three-dimensional objects such as cubes, spheres, and pyramids would seem impossible because our limited perception would only permit us to observe these objects as two-dimensional squares, circles, and triangles. And if someone were to try to describe cubes, spheres, and pyramids to us, we would tell them that they were crazy. That's what we're dealing with when we try to imagine the properties of higher dimensional space. The realm of higher dimensions is in fact a kind of superspace, quote unquote, where things that seem to defy common sense in 3 dimensions actually make complete sense from the perspective of higher dimensions. For example, when viewed from a higher dimensional perspective, a solid wall would seem more like a broken line. Not only would we be able to walk over it, we would also be able to walk through it and around it in ways we otherwise wouldn't imagine possible. Furthermore, distinguishing between large and small, up and down, front and back, left and right, inside and out, etc., would seem equally absurd to us. Thus, what appears to be upside-down pillars, chimneys, and skylights that have overhead roofs and doors or stairs that lead into solid walls make perfect sense when viewed from a higher dimension. Sarah Winchester was fully aware of Riemannian geometry when she incorporated higher dimensional properties into the architecture of her amazing puzzle. She literally has like an Alice in Wonderland house, you guys. Escher. Naturally, Sarah was in good company with regard to expressing the new view. Artists such as Georges Braque and Pablo Picasso were painting stunning images depicting a fourth-dimensional worldview, appropriately called Cubism. However, no one was more in step with Sarah Winchester's perspective than the Dutch artist M.C. Escher. It is not known if Sarah and Escher ever met. However, their approach to higher dimensional expression is remarkably similar. It's as if they were reading from the same book. They both made the use of architectural devices and features that defy the conventions of ordinary three-dimensional space. In fact, Escher, like Sarah, shows us seemingly impossible stairs and pillars. Here's one of the pictures. Escher, who saw the reflective images in mirrors as true representations of higher dimensional space. Okay, did you guys hear that? The reflections in mirrors, and how many times have you heard that throughout this whole article? Okay, so this is palindrome numbers, mirror numbers, and also literal mirrors and reflective images. So Escher also saw the reflective images in mirrors as true representations of higher dimensional space. Escher wrote, "The spherical world cannot exist without the emptiness around it, not only because inside zooms outside, but also because in the nothing lie the strict, geometrically determined, immaterial middle points of the arcs. There is something in such laws that takes the breath away. They are not the discoveries or inventions of the human mind, but exist independently of us." It is interesting to note that Escher felt a great kinship with mathematicians than with other artists. Another crucial element Escher and Sarah Winchester shared was their understanding of the unifying nature of the mathematical symmetry which forms the basis for all higher dimensional structure. This is the Escher-Penrose triangle. The features Sarah and Escher show us are only glimpses of higher dimensional shadows, since we haven't yet evolved into beings capable of higher dimensional perception. We are forced to understand the dynamics of higher dimensions through the precise language of numbers. That's important, guys. Not all of us, but most people are saying right now. So take it how you will. We may well ask, what value does higher dimensional mathematics have for us? The answer is that without higher dimensional mathematics, such as the mathematical innovations of William Rowan and Hamilton or Sophus Lie, many of the technologies we take for granted, from computers, cell phones, to landing robotic spacecrafts on Mars, etc., wouldn't be possible. Bacon's dream of unlocking all of nature's secrets requires our understanding of the dynamics of higher dimensional mathematics. It sounds complicated, but it's not. As Sarah and Escher saw, the beauty of higher dimension numbers lies in their simplicity and symmetry. As we shall see, simplicity and symmetry are interrelated. It's the stuff our universe is made of. Sarah's puzzle may ultimately help us to discover the theory of everything. However, the final key to unlocking Sarah's puzzle is in her numbers. Winchester numbers. As we've seen, the dynamic family of the prime numbers 7, 11, and 13 form the basis of Sarah's system of numbers. No matter where we go, both in and around the house, Sarah has gone to great lengths to put her numbers on display. As a matter of practicality, I will hereafter refer to them as Winchester numbers. Throughout her lifetime, Sarah primarily saw 13 as her number. However, she also keyed on the master number 11 as it applies to her name. This she did by counting the number of letters in her name, i.e. Sarah is 5 numbers, Pardee is 6 numbers. Hence 5 plus 6 combined equals 11. Furthermore, she favored the name Annie Pardee for her daughter, as evidenced by the manner in which she had Annie's obituary printed, Winchester Annie Pardee. The all caps part of the name precisely matches the number of letters in the name Sarah Pardee. Moreover, the name Annie Pardee corresponds Pythagorean cipher to the number 56. This is important as it reveals the close bond Sarah felt for her daughter. So together they are 1111, you guys, her and her daughter. Twins. One architectural device, and if you think of Sarah Winchester and William Shakespeare, twins there as well. One architecture device Sarah used to illustrate her view of the relationship between the numbers 11 and 56 is her arrangement of the decorative wooden posts that align the exterior railings of the 2 third-floor balconies above the front porch of the house. The posts alternate, one right side up, upside down, one right side up, one upside down, resulting in 5 right side up posts and 6 upside down posts. Elsewhere about the house, Sarah throws other numbers into the mix. And we begin to see that Winchester numbers, although generally connected to family names, ultimately take on a much deeper meaning. For example, we recall that Sarah's display the number 49, which is 7 squared, along with the number 777 in her bedroom ceiling. Moreover, the house has 47 chimneys, and we easily see the correlation to the names Annie Pardee, 47 in the Pythagorean cipher, and 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿, 47 in the simple cipher. Furthermore, it is the number that is emblematic of the Masonic third degree, as the newly raised Master Mason is twice informed that the number refers to the 47th preposition of Euclid's Elements, better known as the Pythagorean theorem. And just to make sure we understand that her display of that number isn't accidental, Sarah repeated the number according to the official WMH literature by building 47 staircases. Thus, Sarah emulates the dual allusion to the number 47 in the Masonic third degree lecture by displaying the number twice. This, of course, isn't the only instance in which Sarah has joined the numbers 4 and 7 together. As we saw with Jacob's ladder, she has the combined 44 steps with 7 turns, resulting in the number 51, corresponding to the names Sarah Pardee and Francis Bacon, Pythagorean cipher. But the matter runs still deeper when we conceal that, in showing the number twice, Sarah is also revealing a different perspective as 4747 transforms and rotates into 4477, and when these two numbers combine, we have the number 121, which is 11 squared, which then rotates to 12 plus 1, which equals 13. So it transforms into the number 13. Daisies and the number 13 and the key to 𝐵. As we saw with the wrought iron gates in the front of the house, Sarah displays 2 8-petal daisies. In fact, Sarah shows us daisies everywhere, both in and around the house. They are carved into wood fixtures. They appear in most of the stained glass windows, and many of the species of the daisy flower can be found flourishing in the extensive gardens about the house. The daisy was special to Sarah for the 2 essential reasons. First, it symbolizes the initiate, and second, it is unquestionably one of nature's finest examples of the hidden, unifying symmetry of the number 13. Many species of the daisy have 13 petals. Moreover, most daisy species have 13 branches growing out of the stalks when they mature, and they possess another remarkable feature. The head of every daisy flower forms a Fibonacci spiral, consisting of 34 tiny florets spiraling clockwise inward from the outer ring to the center, and 21 florets spiraling outward counterclockwise and the center to the outer ring. The invisible difference is a 13. The value of phi, the divine ratio or golden mean, whose mathematical sequence was discovered by the mathematician Leonardo Fibonacci, was not invented by man. It was nature's arbitrary template by which all natural structures from atoms, flowers, trees, seashells, and star galaxies comply with specific symmetric parameters. Such symmetry is governed by the harmonics of wave function, in which the growth of any given wave pattern flattens out when it reaches the 8th ordinal point in the Fibonacci sequence, which corresponds to the number 13. It's an immutable law. The ordinal numbers in the sequence are 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, and infinitum. Note the number 13 occupies the 8th ordinal position in the sequence. Note further that the sequence is simply an endless repetition of combining a number with the preceding number in order to arrive at the next number in the sequence. For example, 1 plus 1 equals 2, then 1 plus 2 equals 3, then 2 plus 3 equals 5, then 5 plus 3 equals 8, then 8 plus 5 equals 13, and so on. Thus, 13 is the most coherent, unifying number in the Fibonacci series. From the beginning of civilization, the geometric value of phi, and the number 13 in particular, have been used as a basis for all great architectural endeavors. To further elaborate on this point, authors 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿 and Russell Lockhart tells us, Fibonacci series is at the 8th ordinal point that the ratio between the series values becomes constant values. The 8th ordinal is the number 13. Since this point is the point in the series at which there is no further change in the growth constant, this would seem to be a reasonable basis for taking 13 periods as the maximum number of periods by which a reference point and a structuring point can be separated in order to constitute a coherent wave. There are other approaches as well that arrive at the number 13 as defining the limit of a coherent structure. The pyramids, for example, are built according to the growth of the number 13. Stonehenge is built precisely on the spot where 13 describes the hypotenuse of a triangle, the sides being 5 and 12, with the base at the Blue Stone in Wales and at Lundy Island in the Bristol Channel. The point at the channel's 𝐏𝐿𝐷 Island divides the base 5 precisely into 2 and 3. The length of the hypotenuse drawn from this point at Stonehenge is 12.368. This is exactly the number of full moons in a solar year. It is extraordinary that Stone Age peoples would be able to build such a sophisticated clock as Stonehenge is, and to locate it at precisely 13 units from the Bluestone origin in Wales. Astonishingly, the continuation of this line crosses precisely at the location of the Great Pyramid at Giza, which had not yet been constructed at the time of the completion of Stonehenge. Crazy, guys, crazy. So this is that third Fibonacci sequence and that Fibonacci spiral they're talking about, phi, the golden ratio. And as we are about to see, Sarah always displays 8-petaled daisies in pairs. Since there are no true species of the daisy family having as few as 8 petals, it is apparent that Sarah uses the 8-petal daisy as a device to emphasize the Fibonacci relationship between the numbers 13 and the number 8. 13 therefore manifests the ultimate invisible boundary of all the coherent symmetries from which the structure of the universe is formed. It is literally the key to phi. Quite remarkably, in theoretical physics, the leading candidates for the grand unified theory, aka the theory of everything, are string theory and M theory. Both are based on simple equation involving a pair of 8s, i.e. E 8 parentheses times E 8 parentheses. The E stands for exceptional, while the 8, of course, refers to the 8th ordinal point, occupied by the number 13 in the Fibonacci sequence. And as we have seen, what makes E of 8 exceptional is that it defines nature's maximum limit of the symmetric growth. Without symmetry, the universe and everything in it would not be coherent, rather it would be chaotic. In addition to being the key to phi, 13 is also the dominant unifier of the 3 primary Winchester numbers. Example, 7, 11, and 13. However, the synergistic application of all 3 numbers, or their variants, is required in order to achieve the product of their higher dimensional symmetry. And as we have seen, higher dimensional dynamics involves simple multiplication. The evidence shows that Sarah made use of an algorithmic system in which her trio of symmetric prime numbers produce amazing results. For example, let's multiply, get out your calculator, the numbers 7, 11, and 13 by any 2-digit number. For example, let's use the number 12. We multiply 7 by 12, we get 84. Then 84 by 11 equals 924. Then 924 by 13 equals 12012. Voila, one dynamic level of the symmetry is revealed. Now let's go to a higher level using the 777 symmetric triplet. 777 by 12 is 9,324. Then 9,324 by 13 is 12, 12, 12. Here we go. Let's take it still higher by multiplying 12 by 7 squared, or 49. 12 by 49 equals 588. Then 588 by 121, which is 11 squared, is 71,148. Then 169, 13 squared, times 71,148 equals 120,24012. Notice that in the center of the value of 12 has doubled to 24. So we have 120,24012. Another remarkable symmetry occurs by simply multiplying 11 by 777, which equals 8,547. Then 8,547 by 13 equals 111,111, 111,111. These stunning symmetries derived from the application of the dynamic trio of the Winchester prime numbers reveals an underlying unified principle that indicates a transcendental higher truth is at work. The late Caltech physicist Richard Feynman said, "You can recognize truth by its beauty and its simplicity, because the truth always turns out to be simpler than you thought it would." The Winchester algorithm. As mentioned earlier, Mrs. Winchester undoubtedly discovered the dynamic trio of symmetric primes by studying Bacon's use of them. Additionally, she studied the higher dimensional mathematics of William Thomson, Lord Kelvin, and William Rowan Hamilton. Thomson, 1824 to 1907, theorized the existence of vortex atoms. These are not atoms in the ordinary sense, but rather behave like tiny subatomic whirlpools, resonating and stretching in various modes of symmetry in a vast higher dimensional form or ether. What Thomson was describing nearly 1.5 centuries ago was essentially the mechanics of what is now called string theory. The fundamental problem with the vortex atom, as we now know it, is that theoretically it functions as a blob, quote unquote, in order to be self-consistent. The blob would have to resonate at the speed of light, which we now know is an impossible feat for a blob-like structure to perform. However, it was later demonstrated that a string-like structure can resonate at the speed of light, hence string theory instead of blob theory. The higher dimensional atomic theory of the latter part of the 19th century required a higher dimensional brand of mathematics to describe its functions. Thomson never fully achieved that end. However, the Irish mathematician William Rowan Hamilton formulated a system in which the symmetries governing wave function in our fourth dimensional space can be revealed. He called his invention quaternions. The Winchester algorithm is a simplified variation of quaternions, except it only uses real numbers instead of Hamilton's imaginary numbers. Moreover, two numbers are always multiplied by each other, leaving a product that is then partitioned, and the partition numbers are then added together, resulting in a sum. For example, 52 times 88 equals 4,576. This product can then be partitioned as 4576, which then combined becomes 121, which is 11 squared again, or it can become partitioned from the inside out, such as 5746, which then combined equals to 103, which breaks down to 13, or it can be partitioned in reverse, which is 6754, which then combined also renders 121. Notice that 52 by 88 is really a variant of 7 by 7, because 52 and 88 both simplify to the number 7. 5 plus 2 is 7, 8 plus 8 is 16, and 1 plus 6 is 7. Thus, the product has to be a variant of 49, i.e. 7 squared. In this case, the variant of 49 is 4,576, or 52 by 88. The number of any other variants of 7 squared will always equate to the number 13, or variance of 13, which then simplify to a 4, because 1 plus 3 is 4. By partitioning this number set and combining the partitions, the symmetrical relationship between 7 squared, 11 squared, and the number 13 has been demonstrated. The importance of the Winchester algorithm is that it reveals hidden symmetries that would otherwise not be seen or understood. As we shall see, the dynamics of the algorithm are essential to the application of the higher dimensional mathematics. Naturally, when Winchester numbers are applied in the algorithm, stunning symmetries are always generated. This reason we know about Sarah's algorithm is because she incorporated an ingenious calculating device into the house that clearly demonstrates how higher dimensional math works. Moreover, any 10-year-old child armed with a calculator can easily become a master of Sarah's number system. The train just started going. The spider web window. The Winchester house has 13 ballrooms. The 13th ballroom has 13 steps leading up to its entrance. The exterior wall around the entrance has 13 wood panels. Inside, we find 6 identical windows, all fashioned in a unique spiderweb design. Although there are other spiderweb windows located in other parts of the house, this is the final place where Sarah clearly wanted the enlightened initiate to land. Here, Sarah has ingeniously incorporated her spiderweb design into the architecture as a calculating device functioning both as an instructional tool that shows how the algorithm works and as a model revealing the fundamental symmetric structure of the universe. The design of the spiderweb window is important for several reasons. For one thing, it truly possesses the quality of captivating those who venture in it. But more importantly, it represents the tangled interconnectedness of all things. These are not mere geometric designs intersecting a pane of glass. Rather, these are to be viewed as living strands of fibrous string, which not only connect the individual pieces of glass, but also, through the dynamics of gauge symmetry, unify all things into a complete whole. What else are we to see in this window? Sarah knew that we would notice the outside parameters of the web, unlike the webs we observe in nature, form a four-sided square, and she has purposely embedded 4 pieces of glass into the outermost edge of each of the 4 sides. For example, 4444. Be aware that the window is only showing us a 2-dimensional view of Sarah's spider web, to be discussed later. The next thing Sarah wants us to notice is that the web contains 49 separate pieces of glass. We recall the meaning of this number as it relates to both the number 13 and its prominent display in the grid of Sarah's bedroom ceiling. Next, Sarah directs our attention to the number 52, which is Winchester. But where are we to find it? Ah, yes, true to Bacon's theme of concealment, we have to look between the pieces of glass. And sure enough, the 49 pieces are all joined together at precisely 52 different points. The web's center is occupied by a circle. It's the only circle in the window's design. The circle isn't intersected or divided, nor does it have any of the web-like characteristics we see distributed over the rest of the window's surface. Yet everything in the pattern leads to the circle, and everything emanates from it. There are 3 spider web rings flowing outward from the circle-like concentric waves in a pond. Their web-like quality is the result of inverting all of the arcs that connect the 3 points of each ring. Moreover, each of the rings consisting of 16 pieces of glass. However, the 3rd outermost ring is squared off, which forms the outer boundary of the web. Because the number 16 simplifies to a 7, 1 plus 6 is 7, we may view these 3 concentric rings as 7, 7, 7 instead of 16, 16, 16. And we recall that the number 777 also corresponds to the name William 34, Wirt 25, Winchester 52. Here's a picture of that. Sarah further knew that we would multiply 49 by 777, which equates to 38,073. Then 38 plus 73 equals 111, i.e. Bacon, K cipher, William Wirt Winchester, Pythagorean cipher. Furthermore, she knew that we would see the number 49 simplifies to 13. Hence, 13 by 777 equals 10101, which is 111. Additionally, the reverse palindromic twin of 13 is 31. So palindrome numbers, mirror numbers, and twins. Here we go. Additionally, the reverse palindromic twin of 13 is 31. Thus, 31 times 777 yields the same result. 31 but times 777 equals 24,087. And then 24 plus 87 equals 111 again. In fact, any variant of the number 13, which would be 4, 22, 31, 58, 85, 67, 76, 49, 94, 121, 112, 211, or 1111, etc., when multiplied by the number 777, will always render the symmetry of number 111. Sarah further knew we would then apply the tables of our thoughts to the number 52. So now we multiply 52 by 777, resulting in 40404, or 444, the combined value of Bacon's rosy cross seals. 444 is also the number of light years that the Pleiades is away from the Earth. So, yeah, it's and 7 sisters, right? So the combined value of Bacon's rosy cross seals. Naturally, when the number 7 or any variant of that number is multiplied by 777, the result through the Winchester algorithm will always be number 444. And of course, 13 or any variant of 13 multiplied by 444 will always result in 777. Note the beauty of the product of 13 by 444. It's 5,772. It's a tantamount to be inserting the term Winchester goose 77 inside the name Winchester 52. Both Bacon and Sarah had to have been keenly aware of this. Moreover, the name Winchester appears precisely 27 times in the Shakespearean works, We recall that Bacon's superword from Love's Labour's Lost, honorificabitudinibus, consists of 27 letters. 27 rotates into 117, which is John D. And then reversed, it's 72, which is Sarah Winchester, or 711, because 72 would be 711. For Sarah and Bacon, 444 was the simplified expression of 13, 13, 13. This equally true of the relationship between 777 and 16, 16, 16. So 444 breaks down to a 13, 13, 13. 777 can also be 16, 16, 16. The three symmetric triplets of 777, 111, and 444 are actually higher dimensional expressions of 7, 11, and 13. Bada boom, bada bang. Within the web structure, intricately related higher dimensional symmetries are at work. However, none of the symmetries can exist without unifying power of the circle at the web center. Another important feature of the spider web window is that each of its four sides form a triangle pointing to the circular center. We count 12 pieces of glass in each triangle. However, the four triangles are not complete unless their points merge. Remember, she said merge in the talking points with Sam and 𝐏𝐿𝐵 that I watched. Invisibly into the circle. Then we see the triangles all sharing a 13th piece within the circle. Also, we recall that 4 13s add up to the number 52, which spells Winchester. The two-dimensional circle residing in the web's core appears to possess as a kind of mystic magical quality that seems capable of manifesting any value required to complete or fulfill any given symmetry. It clearly manifests the value of all three of Sarah's symmetric prime numbers, which starts with a key to phi, number 13, that invisibly completes the structure of the window's four triangles. Then, the process of completing the four triangles renders four sets of the number 13, resulting in 52, which then simplifies to the number 7. And finally, the combination of the numbers 49 and 52, representing the window's fundamental structure, gives us the number 101, which breaks down to the number 11. And the 11 also has an 11-year solar cycle, which I was just reading about this morning because of the solar flash we had yesterday, and X marks the spot, which also shows in this picture here. And it combining at the circle in the center, which resembles the sun. Without the application of the Winchester algorithm, the spider web windows would be meaningless. We are indebted to William Rowan Hamilton's development of quaternions for laying down the dynamic principle governing the spider web's intricate workings. The spider web symmetry and the grand unified theory. Quite remarkably, we have been dealing with Winchester numbers in higher dimensional symmetry from the standpoint of a two-dimensional window. However, in order to conceptualize the higher dimensional geometry of the universe, Sarah knew we would need to step up to a three-dimensional view of the spider web window, which is why the 13th ballroom has 6 spider web windows. But why 6? It is because Sarah wanted us to form an image of the windows as a cube. In addition to being in concert with such ideas as the ever-building universe and the dynamic agriculture of the famous Rosicrucian theosophist, mathematician, and philosopher Rudolf Steiner from 1861 to 1925, it seems clear that Sarah adopted the concept of the cube as the simplest geometric structure for the higher dimensional dynamics of the universe. This idea is entirely in step with William Rowan Hamilton's quaternions, the cubist artistic movement, and the Winchester algorithm. In 3 dimensions, however, the spider web's window topography changes. Its geometric shape is now pyramidal. In fact, the cube consists of 6 inverse pyramids, all pointing inward towards its center. Instead of a 2-dimensional circle, we now see a spherical manifold into the capstones of the 6 pyramids invisibly merged together as one. Merge. We recall that the outer boundary of the spider web window has 4 sides, or a value of 4, and this is equally true of the base of a 3-dimensional pyramid. Therefore, 6 pyramidal bases equate to the number 24. If Sarah's spiderweb is also a higher dimensional model for the structure of the universe, it is quite consistent with the fundamental workings of the string theory, as 24 governs the precise number of ways the vibrating string can stretch, bend, and contract. This crucial dynamic of string theory, known as the modular function, was discovered by another of Sarah's contemporaries, the mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan, 1887 to 1920. In fact, Ramanujan numbers bear a striking resemblance to Winchester numbers. The same symmetries we find in Ramanujan's work, culminating in the E of 8 times E of 8 symmetry, also seem to conform to the symmetries that rule over the Winchester model. The co-discoverer of string theory, Dr. Michio Kaku, says it's as though there is some kind of deep numerology being manifested in these functions that no one understands. Appropriately, theoretical physicists like to describe the string or membrane as a resonating subatomic matrix of entangled lattices forming the structure of the universe in a unified configuration resembling a vast spider web. Whew. The legacy. It's no secret that the backside of the U.S. $1 bill is a masterpiece of Masonic code and symbolism. Quite remarkably, the bill's design incorporates an extensive spider web structure that serves as a framework encompassing all of the various components in the overall pattern. The truncated pyramid with its hovering capstone and all-seeing eye represents the unfinished work of the quest to mirror the divine blueprint in accordance with Proverbs 25. It is the final piece of the universal puzzle yet to be set in place. Likewise, the Winchester house is the embodiment of that same unfinished work that Sarah knew would not be achieved in her lifetime. Bacon's legacy seems to be intricately entangled with Sarah's destiny as demonstrated in the cryptic Winchester goose message contained in the last sentence of the Troilus and Cressida. Did Bacon, whose components referred to as the man who could see through time, truly foresee Sarah Winchester? The connection is both uncanny and compelling. The clear evidence ensconced in Sarah's ingenious design of her Shakespearean windows indicates she understood, or at the very least interpreted, Bacon's message to be a harbinger of her own existence by which she would carry on his legacy. The fact that Sarah's puzzle still stands preserved as she left it is a testament to her intent that someone would eventually arrive to pick up her torch. Did she foresee someone who would later appear as an incarnation or embodiment of herself? And did she emulate Bacon in leaving behind clues designating someone to whom her legacy would be passed? If so, how would she have conveyed such a message? The answer, of course, is in the numbers. The inheritor of the legacy would have a thorough understanding of the numbers, and somewhere in the entire display of Sarah's numbers must reside a set of numbers that specifically reveal the inheritor's identity, both in name and date of birth. Thus, the house has stood for decades, waiting patiently for the inheritor, the enlightened initiate who is capable of completing the puzzle. Has the wait been worthwhile? Has Sarah Winchester's work been fulfilled? You decide. That was the article. It has some novels listed here by Richard Allen Wagner, and that is who wrote this article, Richard Allen Wagner. It's like amazing. There's more articles down here that I'm going to have to dive into and read, but I had to share this because I was completely blown away because I've been seeing the number 7-11. They also coincide with the Magnolia building because ExxonMobil took over, or the 7-11 was part of the ExxonMobil that was taken over by the Seven Sisters of gas and oil. And that whole thing. So, which would be relating to the Pleiades, which again is 444. So we have the 7-11, the 444. It all coincides, and the sun symbolism, the flowers, all of it. And I was in Alice in Wonderland, totally blown away. And so there's more that I'll dive into here further in this reading that coincides with your twin flame and how it's going to bring all of this together. But this is a huge piece of it. And so thank you for listening, and we will continue on with the reading.
All right, guys. Okay, so we have the card of defeat coming out. Card of defeat coming out for the divine masculine. I'm going to pull cards here in a second, but I'm getting a sense that's what they're currently feeling, as some sort of like sense of self-defeat. So I'm getting twin flame ciphers, name and numbers. The numbers that were reoccurring was 21, which is 3 7s. William was a 111. Francis Bacon was 100. We had the olive tree. We had the staff of Pan. We also had the spear against the serpent of ignorance. So I feel like there's a serpent of truth and there's a serpent of ignorance. We have Pallas Athena. That was in my birth chart that coincided with the olive tree staff. We had 777, that was William Wirt Winchester. 777 stocks that Sarah Winchester had. We had the sun symbol with the 16 radiance. The 1616 was the 77. The 161616 was the 777. The bacon in the K cipher was 111. The bacon in the simple cipher is 33. We have the 13 pertaining to the 13 lunar cycles. And the bilateral cipher, which coincided with the modern day Morse code and also computer operating systems. Larson, I wanted to talk about that. There's just a lot here with September and her, a lot within these codes. So just trust what resonates for you, okay? I wrote down a lot here, and this might have to be this is gonna have to be a whole separate video because there's just too much here. But the main points of it is that I was also exploring the Mandela effects of the fruit of the loom and the cornucopia being there.
I got to the bottom of the fruit of the loom, cornucopia, Mandela effect, and I'm upset. Claire really pulled through for us and went through all of her old clothes until she found an official logo. Not only is this an official fruit of the loom shirt, except the cornucopia looks exactly how we've all described it and remembered it. This reignited my fixation, and after digging through the internet, I found this old newspaper that specifically says fruit of the loom logo was initially a cornucopia. And fruit of the loom has been questioned about the cornucopia. They've straight up been lying to us, saying that it never existed. Please note that this fruit of the loom image that was created from people's memories matches exactly what's on Claire's shirt. Not only are they lying to us, they're intentionally causing chaos. If you go to their homepage, they have a whole timeline of their logos, and what company has that? That's not evidence enough that they're intentionally trying to cause chaos. These are what their TikToks look like.
I don't know.
I'm convinced this is 100% corporate gaslighting. Mixed feelings about this because honestly it is one of the greatest marketing ploys in all of history, but at what cost? It has caused me so much distress that both my husband and my therapist forbade me from pursuing it any further. Glad I pursued my heart and got to the bottom of this, but tell me what you think. Should we just admire their marketing, or should we open a class action lawsuit to be reimbursed for emotional damage? I officially have government documentation that fruit of the loom is lying about never being associated with the cornucopia. That we should first start off with this Frank West album, Fruit of the Loom, which was made in the late 1970s and was a clear spin-off of Fruit of the Loom. I don't know how to credit a Redditor, but this one deserves an award because he went so far down the rabbit hole, he ended up reaching out to the son of the artist who created the art for the album cover. The son responded, making it very clear that Fruit of the Loom was in fact inspired by Fruit of the Loom, and the cornucopia was part of its logo. Redditor even brought receipts and took a screenshot of his email conversation. The part I'm most excited about, this is an official government document for the Fruit of the Loom trademark, and if you look at the bottom, it said baskets of fruit, containers of fruit, cornucopia, horn of plenty. And I'm not arguing that there's no room for discussion about when and how this logo was used, but it's clearly dishonest for Fruit of the Loom to make us believe we're crazy for assuming that the cornucopia was ever associated with their logo.
And then a bunch of other Mandela effects. And what I wrote down is that they fabricated all our history and then gaslit us.
I have a theory that the Mandela effect is used to see how much of history can be altered in front of our eyes. Here's a prime example of one of that. There's this woman on TikTok who was going crazy because she swore the Fruit of the Loom had a cornucopia logo. And to the point that even Fruit of the Loom themselves put a timeline of all their logos and it never had a cornucopia. And this woman went hard. Her therapist told her, yo, you need to chill out. You need to just drop this. So she went through all of her old clothing, and lo and behold, she found a shirt with the Fruit of the Loom with the cornucopia logo on it. That shows me, like, yo, I think the Mandela effect is an operation that's running around right now to see how much of history can be altered right in front of our eyes without us noticing. And then they gaslight the public and be like, nope, this never happened. Damn, I didn't think about it like that. Yeah, bro, people are thinking about it very little, like, oh, it's the Berenstain Bears or the Berenstein Bears or Jiffy or Jif's peanut butter. No, it's much larger than that, guys. They're using this to see, oh, if we can can get people to forget certain primary things about their childhood, what can we do with history?
I have a theory. I look awful. Don't mind the appearance. I have a theory. I have a theory that from all the information that I've gathered so far, that the Mandela effects are literally devices that the government is working with us, with our consciousness. Number one, to distract us. Number two, to make us think that we are crazy, to gaslight us. And I've seen other people talk about this. And this is like a lot of stuff from our childhood that we vividly remember, because our childhood memories, like we vividly remember a lot of our childhood memories because of a lot of the things that we went through as being a kid. So they're lodged in there. Like, we know what fucking happened. Okay. So here comes in, a lot of people talking about this with the Mandela effects is they fabricated our history and then gaslit us. And one of the examples of this is looking into the asylums of Tartaria. So for example, if you look into Tartaria, it was all over the world, these massive buildings, okay? And then there was mud floods, and you can see this by the mud being like halfway on the buildings, and then all of this. So it's, people say it's like parallel timelines and things like that, which it could definitely be. Like, I'm very open-minded to all this stuff, but I really feel like these things did happen. And then we have proof of insane asylums happening, the orphan trains happening where they separated the kids from the parents during those times to keep them from knowing what actually went on from their parents. Like, their parents had knowing of what happened, and the children would be put into these asylums, and the parents as well would be put into asylums and programmed out of what they thought they knew to be true. Now, there are record accounts of this happening all over the world. Another example of this, which I've talked about before, is the Queen of Hawaii and how she was dethroned, and then how the government came in and they wouldn't allow the Hawaiian elders to teach their children their native language. The children were forced to learn English, and then they weren't allowed to converse with their elders, literally, unless it was in English. Well, let's pass down through the native tongue, all the history. So that's another example of wiping out the history. And there are actual records of this happening. Now, what brought me into this is recently I was watching videos about the cornucopia being in the Fruit of the Loom logo, which I know for a fact was there. I have a very vivid memory. And I know for a fact it was there because I remember it being on the package of the underwear and asking my mom what the hell that thing was in the back behind the fruit. And my mom told me it was a cornucopia. I 100% know for a fact it was there. And there are other people's accounts of knowing for a fact it was there. But the Fruit of the Loom is saying that was never in their logo. Well, I have a recollection and this thing within me that can sense intuitively that they changed that logo to remove the cornucopia. I know. I'm very intuitive. I know. And also, I'm going to ask my mom about it and see what she says, because I'd be interested to hear. I do not believe I made all this up in my head. I really don't. And I'm also thinking, because the CIA has been studying our minds for several years. The CIA has been studying our minds for several years. And remote viewing, you can look up the documentation on the government website of the CIA. They've been studying us for years and trying to stop this ascension that's happening through our growing minds of consciousness. And what's one way to do that? To convince us that we're crazy, right? Because then we doubt ourselves and then we don't progress in consciousness. Well, you have to know that that's a fucking lie. And that is their pathetic attempt. Alexa's fucking flashing right now and showing, hold on. Dude, 12/21. 12/20. December, 22, the master architect number. Okay.
It's also back.
This coincides. This is a message from spirit. You guys saw that flash. I literally thought that picture on there was the cornucopia, and I know how AI listens in on us. Okay, listen. MK Ultra is real. Okay? Mind control is real. And if you don't believe it, just go on their website. Go on the government website of the CIA and look up classified documents or declassified documents. I'm sorry. Look them up. They're on there. They are literally showing you. Okay? And they're showing you through movies, through everything else. It's all tell-lie vision. It's all mind control. Literally. And now they're trying to gaslight us into thinking that none of these things happen. Why? Because they reset things in history. And there's patterns to it. And there's things that they're trying every attempt that they can to stop fucking ascension. I bet you that's what it is. Because it's like once we know too much, then we know too much. And then we're in on it. And then what happens? They lose their control. Their control ceases. Right? And I'm not crazy. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And I've done extensive research and I'm still researching and I'm very open-minded. I'm very open-minded. They're using this to see how far they can push it to rewrite our history, to disconnect us from our history, to disconnect to what actually happened time and time again. And they even include it in the Bible, the floods, the resets, what's happening, right? So I feel like they are trying every attempt to, one, distract us from the truth, to make us think we're crazy by gaslighting us. Like, this is literally psychological warfare. It's spiritual warfare. It's physical warfare. It's mental warfare. But see, we're in on it. What are they going to do? We're in on it. We know what's happening. Guys, COVID was not a pandemic. It was literally a hunt. They're looking for people. They're looking for someone. They're looking for something. Okay? It's an attempt to find something. And so with the Tartaria asylums, they would place people in these neighborhood city things where all these buildings already were, and there was like no other people. It was like they were physically placed and moved from trains and dispersed and placed there. And there's like literal accounts of this, and like people talking about like their late grandparents talking about this actually happening. And it shows up in the movie that I watched last night, The Polar Express, where they make it to the North Pole and there are all these buildings, but they look like little toy shops, but they keep exploring and find out the reality of it. And so they're trying to blur the lines between the dream realm and the reality realm, but we already know and distinguish the two. And this is where they're getting frustrated. And that's why that's why I said that's why they're gaslighting us. My phone stopped recording. These are all signs from spirit. And I know this is why it's happening. And you can call me crazy. Like, I literally don't care. I want to be talking about it if I cared. Okay? I care because I care about humanity and I care about what's happening in the world and I care about the truth. So while there can be multiple truths to truths, we know the timeline that we're referring to and the timelines that we're referring to and how they're trying to distort and gaslight and to make us believe that they never happened when they in fact did. And now we know. And I'm also guessing if you're a starseed or you're a light worker or you're a rebel without a cause or with a cause, that you have lots of people in your life that are attempting to gaslight you every chance they can get, to tear you down every chance they can get, and to make you doubt yourself every chance they can get. Do you know why? Must be pretty powerful, huh? You must know some things, huh? You must know some truths, huh? That they don't want getting out. Because surprise, surprise, here we are with the truths and the intuition that pointed us there to show the truth and to dispel the lie. So I hope this helps you if you've been going through this too and going down rabbit holes and finding truths and knowing truths. Don't doubt yourself. You're onto something and you know some things. You're welcome.
Look into the asylums from Tartaria.
Giant historical buildings and ancient lies, part 2. Let's go.
The St. Mary's Orphan Asylum, located in Galveston, Texas, where they tell us that this one is haunted.
Now, I've talked about hauntings before briefly. I'm not going to say that there aren't any hauntings, but when it comes to these old world buildings, I think it was a tactic to keep people away from them. Just say that they're haunted, and it scares everyone away from investigating. So we have yet again another orphan operation going on in the mid-1800s. And I'm just going to let you know that this is going on and on and on. There were so many orphan operations going on in the mid-1800s because this was how they were repopulating these cities. So where were all these kids' parents? Is this where a lot of our families originated from? Is this why the family trees in the USA almost all end around the same time period? We are told hundreds of fire stories through the first 52 episodes. We know that that is the key and the nod, that it's a building that was constructed by the previous civilization. The St. Mary's Orphan Asylum. For anyone wondering where the parents of these orphans were, you might want to check the other asylum, the insane asylum, because they were not going along with the reset. Here's a graph showing that the insane asylums are disappearing over time, and I wonder why. Good thing they cared so much about us in 1955 and 1965, because surely that was the fix. Oh, it wasn't? And then a fire had devastated the St. Mary's Orphan Asylum in 1875. If anyone is still on the fence, there is room over here to get off the fence. And honestly, who would want to sit on top of a fence anyway? So we have Ohio, Baltimore, Texas. We have all these towns and cities being repopulated. Brand new people, brand new social structures, brand new mindsets, and resetting what people are taught. This all happened around 150 years ago. So this is all very new. This isn't thousands of years ago. Then we have another very interesting aspect of this in Germany. During this same exact time period, and remember, we also have good old Joseph from earlier, also from Germany. So here we are given the 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿. And if I pronounce that wrong, I hope you all understand. This is where we are given kindergarten, another tactic to teach children the brand new social structures. What better way to trick people? Take them out of their family's home and tell them what to think, and then test them on it. Failing the test will then lower your self-esteem, putting a social pressure on children to agree with this new way of thought, or they will be called dumb and get an F. This is an operation. It's all connected, and it's designed to enslave the world's population. Year after year, we are all taught a false narrative. We've all been brainwashed into thinking that you are either smart or dumb, based on a curriculum that holds zero value in the real world. Now, who knows if this Frederick Froebel was even a real character, but they do admit that kindergarten starts in Germany around the exact same time period that we're talking about, the mid-1800s. So I wanted to tie it all in with the rest of the world. This is a worldwide operation. This is not just the USA. We have a lot of things in the USA being controlled through Germany during this time period, especially the education aspect of it. And I want to point out that yes, we have borders and division now. We have so many countries in the world, and everyone is separated. And you're unable to travel to other lands unless you have a piece of paper that is registered and checked at the checkpoints. But who's to say that there even was a border in the previous civilization? Were there so-called elected leaders controlling everyone, deciding what we can and cannot do? Could they have had a truly free life, where they were able to travel wherever they want, freely, and not feel like they're invading someone else's territory? I would say, in my opinion, this was the world that was here before the reset. And something happened where this past civilization was wiped out, and their technology was stolen by a group, and some of it is now being sold back to us. Strategically, the good stuff is kept to control the masses and used for their benefit. Here we have the St. Joseph's Orphanage, located in Vermont. And if you want to know where they get these horror movies, where they show a nun doing crazy things, there's a dark truth to it. These movies don't come out of nowhere. They come from the last 150 years. Here in Vermont, in the mid-1800s again, thousands of children came through its doors. If you want to demoralize, control, and manipulate a new population, make them completely forget their past and never question what they're told, you would make them suffer. You would take them from their families, and you would ruin their mind at a young age. This is exactly what happened in the wars, where all men between ages 21 to 45 were required to fight in World War I, which was in 1914 to 1919. 2.8 million men drafted, 2 million volunteered, where you get the term shell-shocked or mentally confused. You can look at the shell-shock videos on X. I'm not going to show that here. But talk about destroying minds and making sure that the population is unable to focus on finding the truth. So we have millions of people in wars. We have more than 5 million American children passing through the orphanage system in the 1900s alone, hitting its peak in the early 1900s. So it began in the mid-1800s and really ramped up to populate these cities. The American orphanage system included more than 1,600 institutions, partly supported by public funding, but usually run by religious orders, exactly like we talked about in the beginning of this episode. So I think we have now a very solid understanding how the USA was repopulated, how this operation took place, and exactly when it took place. I think that we now have factual evidence as to when this reset really happened.
And how they did these population wipeouts and resets, and then the people that witnessed it had to be put into these asylums, separated from their own children. The children went into asylums from trains, the people went into asylums from trains. We had orphan trains, and then we had other things that, and then if you questioned what you saw and what was changed, you were then thrown into an insane asylum. 100% there was a cornucopia in the back of Fruit of the Loom's logo. They're saying that it was never there. The company's saying that it was never there, but there's like literal articles and articles of clothing that document it and say that it was there.
Proof that we're not the only ones who remember Fruit of the Loom having a cornucopia. In the movie The Ant Bully they show the way we remember the Fruit of the Loom logo.
If Fruit of the Loom never had a cornucopia in their logo, then how do you explain this? This publication from 2001 mentions the cornucopia in Fruit of the Loom's logo. This publication from 1967 also mentions a cornucopia in Fruit of the Loom's logo. This issue of Forbes magazine is from September 1998, and although it doesn't show a cornucopia in the logo in the image, the passage does mention Fruit's well-known cornucopia logo. Many people distinctly remember Fruit of the Loom having a cornucopia in their logo. What do you remember?
So while they think they can gaslight us and manipulate us into thinking that we're crazy and imagining that and making that up when I know for a fact it was there, just goes to show that they're utilizing Mandela effects as psyops against humanity to get us to think that we're crazy, to doubt ourselves, and to literally try to keep us on this like artificial timeline or the timelines of the Matrix. I wrote, I am the key to everything. I don't know why I wrote that. That just like came through the other day when I was like reading this and writing. I don't know. I think we're all the key to everything, but I think there's something there with the key because that also came through a Masonic thing.
All right. I was watching American Dad on TV, and I saw something that was interesting that caught my eye. So I came on here onto Hulu and found the episode. Now this one is called Wheels and Legman in the Case of Grandpa's Key, Season 7, Episode 10. Alright, so this is about 3 minutes in. Now watch. Pay attention.
I don't have any money to pay you, but if you find out what this key opens, you can have half of whatever's inside. Wow, that sounds like a fun journey. Here's a chance to get some bad.
Alright, so I'm gonna play that again. Now, the thing that I noticed was what I think appears to be like a fez, or one of these hats that the Moors wear. All right, and he puts it on, and then they say something interesting when he's checking it out.
Read all about it. My grandfather always claimed I would inherit a secret fortune, but when he died, all he left me was this one mysterious key. I don't have any money to pay you, but if you find out what this key opens, you can have half of whatever's inside. Wow,
That's interesting. He says about his grandpa's fortune.
My grandfather always claimed I would inherit a secret fortune, but when he died, all he left me was this one mysterious key. Wow, that sounds like a...
He said my grandma always said I would inherit his fortune. And this is while Stan puts on the fez hat. I feel like that has some kind of deep occult significance. I just did a real quick search on Google. I know there's a lot of people out there from different schools of thought who could elaborate on this much more. I'm sure there's a lot of Moors out there who can elaborate on this and give a more intricate answer. So this is just me doing a quick run on Google, just for a surface level little familiarity with some initial meanings that are attributed to the Moorish fez. So it says here, the Moorish fez became a mark of intelligence and came to warn all along the northern shores of what today we call Africa. The fez meant that you claimed your bloodline and that you were a highly evolved person. It also represents the supreme height of practical wisdom. That's interesting. And thinking about that concept, and hearing what this character in the cartoon said about, he said, my grandpa always said I would inherit his fortune, which is interesting. That right there is like a riddle. The first thing that came to my mind off the top of my head that I could think of was Solomon and the ancestors or the forefathers, and a lot of these characters that are in the Bible. That's what I first thought of. And this inheritance and the curses of Deuteronomy and the things that are prophesied to come, and the land of Israel being restored, inheritance coming back to somebody. I think there's a lot of scriptures on that in the Bible of inheritance and promises and prophecy, and you had a lot of great men of those times, of the King Davids and the Solomons and all the different figures and stuff that came before us and our forefathers. So that's just something that's interesting.
And as we saw within Sarah Winchester's story, there's a lot to do with Freemason symbolism, the Knights Templar, the Rosicrucians, the Pythagoras.
Do you remember that time Disney explained what the pentagram meant? Oh, you don't? Let me show you.
You can imagine how excited Pythagoras was when he shared his findings with his pals, a fraternity of eggheads known as the Pythagoreans. They used to meet in secret to discuss their mathematical discoveries. Only members were allowed to attend. They had a secret emblem, the pentagram. Let's see what the topic is for today. It was our old friend Pythagoras who discovered that the pentagram was full of mathemagic. The two shorter lines combined exactly equal the third. And this line shows the magic proportions of the famous golden section. The second and third lines exactly equal the fourth. Once again, we have the golden section. But this is only the beginning. Hidden within the pentagram is a secret for creating a golden rectangle, which the Greeks admired for its beautiful proportions and magic qualities. The star contains the golden rectangle many times over. It's a most remarkable shape. It can mathematically reproduce itself indefinitely. All these rectangles have exactly the same proportions. This figure also contains a magic spiral that repeats the proportions of the golden section into infinity.
The numbers, the symbology there, there's just a lot there, okay? Yeah, I remember asking my mom what the cornucopia was on the Fruit of the Loom package, and that's how I found out what a cornucopia was. So I know for a fact it was there. I wrote, is this MK Ultra, to see how far they can push it to rewrite our history and to get us to create with them this belief of a lie that they're propagating to get us to forget the old timeline or something like that. So yeah, maybe CERN has something to do with that. Maybe the hydraulic collider, like the CERN, maybe that was like implemented to try to create some sort of like fake timeline that they could get us to relate to or believe on, but we still remember this old timeline. And that's why they're getting frustrated, is because we do for a fact remember these old Mandela effects, these things that we know for a fact happened from our childhood, because our childhood memories are so embedded within us, and they're getting really frustrated that we're not buying into their fake timeline. That's what's coming through right now. And so I wrote in my channel, if they have the power to distort our reality with fake Mandela effects, then we do too have the power to change it to the right direction. Okay. And then I was watching the Polar Express, and I talk about this in a video that I uploaded to my Instagram and TikTok. If you're not following me there, please do as well. Same name, Kimberkiss 𝐏𝐢𝐜𝐿. The Polar Express takes you out of reality into the dream of realism. So that way you gain the higher perspective of how this reality in actuality is a dream. You get to play in both hemispheres, in both realms, and in all realms. And it is up to you to decide and to prove which one is more real for you. 616 just now on my clock as I was reading that, which is a Bridger number. In order to be able to perceive. Okay, so going along with that, and I'm sorry this is how I channel, but going along with that Alice in Wonderland basis of Lewis Carroll, the labyrinth, and how Sarah Winchester was building her house with this idea in mind. Now, for me personally, I feel like all of it's true. I feel like she was using this as a spiritual realm to communicate with the dead, especially her daughter and her husband, who she lost both of. And I do feel like she trained confirmation from spirit, was housing it as a way to communicate with spirits. I also believe that she also threw in her Rosicrucian and Freemason codings as like a hidden alchemist for others to discover and to find. I feel like it's all of it. Okay, I don't feel like it's just one or the other. But I wanted to explore deeper into it to see what else I got. And I got so much with that 444 from the Pleiades. The Pleiades is 444 light years from Earth. We have the 711 connection, which connects Tartaria with the Magnolia Petroleum, from that Magnolia building in Pegasus Plaza to Tartaria, because those buildings have the same engravings. And they connected Proverbs 9:11 to the Proverbs, was it 25 or 52 within that Winchester article? Okay, I feel like it all connects, okay? And so with that connection to Lewis Carroll and Through the Looking Glass, and Sarah creating this labyrinth, and also this Wonderland, Alice in Wonderland of a house, I wrote, in order to be able to perceive, and how they described, like, if you're looking at it from a 2-dimensional perspective and then a 3-dimensional perspective, it's not going to make sense unless you see it from a higher dimensional perspective, looking down. So I put, in order to be able to perceive, you have to be able to see from a higher dimension and perspective. Otherwise, this reality here, this third dimensional reality, will make absolutely no sense to you whatsoever. My hand just looked like a duck. You know, when you make those shadow puppets on the wall and you go, ha, that's a duck on the wall. That's what I just saw when I was doing that with my hand. So I don't know how that coincides, but that might with something. So you have to like look down at the landscape to be able to perceive the landscape. Okay. What are labyrinths? Okay. And then our question that I wrote down, like how Sarah Winchester created this labyrinth for you to somewhat figure out in the spirits, and all of it combined is, what are the labyrinths that you have created for yourself or yourselves? And I wanted to write that down because I thought that was a very deep question that you could like really get deep into and journal about and just kind of see where it takes you. So also, I wanted to bring up the fact that I had channeled like a Timothy Larson or Lawson, and I didn't know if the first name was Timothy. Like, I just knew I kept getting Larson, very loud, Larson. And so I happened to see that Celina and Call Me Kris video where they go to the Winchester house with Colby and Sam and Colby. And then I'm digging deeper into the Sarah Winchester thing because Sarah Good.
So is this more like, this is a great place to put this? Is that what that feels like?
That's what it feels like. The historians claim with all their research that the area right behind the Walgreens is where they believe it to be.
I'm sorry, I can't have that. The area behind the Walgreens.
And also, I think it's because it's been so like it's so built up that they don't want to stay here. I mean, like where we were before is more secluded and it's less busy. So while it's a nice kind of more, at least for me, it doesn't feel like anything heavy. It's like they can kind of come in, they appreciate like the gifts and whatnot, but it's not like they stay here for a long period of time.
Definitely just like, for me, I expected a field and I expected like a big memorial and like maybe a museum.
No, more so of what we were in up there, but nothing. No, it's like seeing Plymouth Rock for the first time. It's like a little thing. It's not like a whole ass rock.
Sarah Good. I feel drawn to that name. I like that. Sarah Good.
Sarah Good.
What? Her last name's Good, and they're like, you're bad.
Right?
Bad Sarah Good.
Also, it's kind of like the Holy Grail, where people don't always know 100%.
Like, there's something there with the name Sarah, with that being Mary Magdalene's daughter's name, and also, like, it's my last name before it was changed over at Ellis Island. Alice. See, it all connects. So what I found is that with me channeling this Larson last name, I went on the Facebook page of the Winchester house. Why? I don't know. I just trust where spirit leads me. 1023 right now, which is Mary Magdalene's gospel, which means resurrection. I feel like this is like a resurrection of knowledge. I don't know if this person even, I don't think they're alive. But, so I'm on the Facebook page of the Sarah Winchester house. I'm not even fucking kidding you guys. I have documented proof of this too, where I have it in the notes of my phone a few days prior to me finding out that this person actually existed, this Larson. Person, okay? And I'm on the Facebook page and I scroll down and maybe like a few posts down, like 6 or 7 posts down, it shows Sarah Winchester handing something to this gentleman on a ladder, and his name is Robert Larson. And here he was like 1111 just now on my clock. Oh my God, 1111 twin flame number, the 4 of Wands. Here he was, what do they call it? Someone that drove her around. I can't think of the name. I'm going to insert it here because I hate when I have these brain blanks, but he drove her around. He drove her around. And so there's that Larson, and he was like her go-to guy, basically. So how crazy is that? Like, how fucking crazy is that? Like, it took me by surprise. Okay, so I'm getting like strong mediumship abilities. I feel like Sarah Winchester was definitely a strong medium. I'm getting this defeat card again. And I'm channeling, and we have celebration in reverse. And I feel like there's something that your divine masculine is, or you, take it how you will, but I'm strictly trying to channel the divine masculine energies right now for this twin flame reading. And I'm getting like there's something here where this masculine is supposed to feel motivated, is supposed to feel celebrations, or supposed to be celebrating right now. And they're like in a happy moment where they're supposed to be happy, but they're feeling this sense of self-defeat. And it would make sense for this time of year, because I am filming this as like a New Year reading and a Christmas reading. Yeah, they're feeling really frustrated. And they're supposed to be feeling all these good feelings, and they're feeling what I'm picking up right now. And today's the 23rd of December when I'm filming this like second portion, which I've been meaning to film for a few days, but I had to really sit with the energies and wait till the divine timing was right. They're waiting for the muse, and the muse is you. I keep getting that. The 9 muses of Pegasus Plaza, which connects to the 7 sisters of the Pleiades, I feel. They have no passion without you. But they're feeling a lack of courage when it comes to the romance and when it comes to this connection. There's a lot of anxiety here. And it's like they know they need this change of attitude, and they've overcome so many towers because of this with victory. And there's like this determination to move forward, but they also feel like disappointed with this. They feel like a lack of protection. I'm getting that there's something maybe to do with the holidays, maybe not, but there's something that they're supposed to be celebrating or supposed to be feeling happy about. And instead, they're feeling this strong sense of defeat. And it's like they want to come towards you, is what I'm hearing. Like they want to come towards you. They don't want you to they don't want to disrespect you. They don't want you to look at them without respect. But you're their fulfillment, and they're lacking fulfillment without you. And they like realize in order to make this real in their life, like what they have to do is what I'm hearing. What they have to do. And with this, they feel like a loss of hope, okay? Choked up as well. Like I'm getting a lot with the throat chakra. Like they don't even know how to talk about this. Like they know how to talk to you, they just don't know how to express this to you. They feel like they would have to sacrifice so much, but they feel like it's worth it for you. They just feel a loss of hope right now, okay? So let's see what else. I'm also getting like, yeah, you need to look into these difficult paths because they're worth exploring. Just like I saw with the up and down ball going down the thing. I'm also getting like, there's something here with twin flame numbers that I'll probably make a whole separate video about or something. Yeah, because there's a lot there with the numerology and the numbers. Yeah, victory. There's a lot there with the numbers. We have the 6 of Roses, which is also a 33. Like, it's like mastering something here. Mastering something. Calling back your power to master something. This person feels like a fool. The divine masculine, they have so much attraction. Yeah, when it comes to you, it popped out with my thumb. They feel like Thumbelina. They feel like Thumbelina next to you. They also have this strong sense, 1551 just now on the clock, which is a 66, 33, 33. They feel this strong sense of independence. And they're very intuitive. They feel like they're in competition when it comes towards you. Like everything that they have perceived about you has been an illusion. And each time they converse with you, you are literally breaking down each illusion. Like you're shattering every mirror of what they thought they knew about you. Okay, that's a strong message coming through. I also feel like, the labyrinths, these puzzles, these halls of mirrors are worth exploring not only within yourselves, but within each other. And I feel like that's the strongest message coming through right now for both of you. You're letting go of perfectionism, like in what you see in the mirror, because you don't believe what's in the mirror, because there's so much more than just the physical appearance. And there's so much more than what is seen with the two eyes, as you both have witnessed with both of your third eyes coinciding together. This is a challenge for a lot of third dimensional people. They believe and they perceive with their two eyes. The key is to not. The key is to believe what you feel, the opportunities that are there, which could sometimes feel like you're going towards a tower, but sometimes it's worth it. And we have the devil there. It's like you're scared to face it. And there's a lot of defeat with that fear. And opposition. But it's like you're coming out of that opposition. It's like you're exploring darker realms and also lighter realms within you, being able to explore those darker realms of the self and of both of yourselves. That leads to a transformation, evolvement. 13, a Sarah Winchester number here. And the sun, again, Medusa, and broadening consciousness, and the 16 fragments, which is a 7. So we have Pleiades here represented through the 7, through the sun. We also have a 19. That could be a 10, new beginnings, support. What's hidden comes to light. Broadening your horizons through all senses. Finding courage in your own validation and in your own support. There's definitely someone who wants to build something here with you, and they're a very lovely person. Very lovely energy. Very understanding, very emotionally secure and supportive and mature and spiritual. Keep it private. This person's very nurturing. This divine masculine is very nurturing. They understand the numbers as well. They deal with a lot of anxiety, which leads into indecisive movement, indecisive movement. Unsuccessful with the energy and the understanding of it, which brings into a change of attitude. So everything happened for a reason. They played their cards right, even though they feel like they hadn't. They're disappointed with themselves, or they're disappointed in the situation that you're in. Divine Feminines. They want you, Divine Feminines, and this could also be like what you want for your Divine Masculines as well. Take it how it reflects. They want you to trust in your own intuition, your own independence, to overcome these towers. So that way you both can celebrate. They want you to trust in yourself. Or you might want this for them, okay? So I'm gonna pull a few more cards because I wanna get in deeper. We're gonna go in deeper. We're gonna do a second round. We're gonna do a second round. And we're gonna go in deeper into the Divine Masculine's inner mentality. 21, just now on the clock, 33. We're gonna see what kind of like puzzle they're
So what we're trying to find out here is this light limited on projection or on reflection?
You can see it goes infinite amounts of time. So the idea is as we point the laser gets dimmer at a certain point of which the laser is bouncing back and forth. And we're trying to figure that out. So, all right, lights off. We take a laser and we
Gotta try leaving it out. Yo, one movement unlocks so many different patterns.
light off, and then the problem is too, under the dark circumstances, the light that's only emitting from the laser is only what I can tell of what it's going to. I can't see how far it's going beyond there.
The countdown is on.
There's no point to living. There's nowhere you're supposed to be, nowhere you're going. You're not late, you're right on time. There's nothing you have to do. So stop trying to measure it. Stop trying to count it. Stop rushing it. You're there, you're alive. Just enjoy it. Just live it. Love. Remember, hold on to it. There's no use for you. There's nothing you were meant to do. You might find a purpose in this time that you're alive, but you don't need to. I dare you to grow, to break some branches, to mend, to heal, to try something new. But there's nothing you have to do. Just maybe be a good person and help some others too. There's no use for you and there's no expectations for you. Don't let them fool you. Just live. Enjoy it. I dare you. I love you. It's enough. I promise you.